And we are live with May, the highway hopper.
What's up? Thanks for
Super.
having me on here, man. I'm super excited about this.
You're very welcome. I'm excited about this one too. Um, do you just kind of want to tell everybody what you do? We
Yeah,
can get started like that.
yeah. I'm a trucker, but I say that in quotations because I'm kind of more like a trucker's assistant.
Okay.
Because when I got into trucking, um, my husband and I are doing this together, and I started working on getting my CDL. And in the middle of that, they decided to make a law change on how you get your CDL now. So I don't actually have my CDL, so I can't record any of that type of stuff on the platform for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
He does the majority of the driving, but anything that has to happen with truck driving that isn't the driving portion, I do. So
Perfect.
I do all the client relation stuff. I do all the phone calls. I line up loads. I do securement. All that stuff. I help with maintenance, things like that. Like that's basically nose to end. I'm working on that stuff with him. So um, yeah, that's what I do. I trucker, but more like trucking assistant is kind of where it is right now. But I do intend on getting my CDL for sure. It's just
Um,
like 7 grand now.
ooh.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay. So do you think that they did that to kind of limit just anyone from doing it? Or why? What do you think
No,
the intention was
I
there?
think the money. They
The
just
money
wanted the
grab.
money because it used to be you study, you take the written test, and then you do like your normal driving stuff of like you practice, right, with somebody who's educated, and then you
Right.
take the driving test. And now what they did is you have to go to a government approved school
Of course.
and you have to get all your hours there. And it doesn't change the fact that you still have to do the written test, you still have to do the driving portion, but now you have to give all your money to this government approved school to be able to get your CDL. And you know what? They also made it so that the questions they ask on the driving portion and stuff, they now ask less questions about it. So, like, essentially, they made it easier to pass all the tests. So they're not making it so that like the most educated, best truck drivers are getting
Right.
passing their tests, but now you have to give your money over to the state. So where I'm at, it cost about 6 grand in about 3 weeks. So I don't have time to take off
No.
for that right now. That's just not realistic. I can't. It's actually more about the time and less about the money right now.
Well,
Like I
they're
can't take 3 weeks off to get my CDL when we're trucking along just fine.
yeah, they're
So
kind of asking you for 10 grand is what they're doing.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Well, by week, I mean that's $8,000 to $10,000 a week in trucking in the trucking world. So we're
that's
talking
incredible.
30K or whatever that I could lose in a month. Now, albeit saying that he could keep driving without me, but it would make that he makes a lot less money than we normally do because him driving and trying to set up loads just doesn't work
No.
because I do all of that. So it's yeah, it takes a balance, but it's my fault for not getting my CDL sooner. I just didn't realize, I was on a time crunch until it was too late. And here we are.
Well,
So,
and that's
oh well.
typically not one of those things that the government gives you a heads up on either. Like if you've been thinking
No.
about it, you should, because in a few months it'll be this. It's like a
Yep.
surprise.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you guys work together.
Yeah.
I've always kind of had that daydream of like having some because for one, when you're together, you're I would assume to be very driven in the same, you know what I mean? Like you guys have the same goals, same
Yeah.
drive, same all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So finding that alone is difficult. And then
Yeah.
finding someone that has the same interests as you and all that kind of stuff in the same
Yeah.
job, like, but it would just be awesome. Like work is typically something that gets in the way in my world, as opposed to you get your
Yeah.
work and you also get all that time together. I think that's great.
Yeah. And it really is. I'm very blessed that God put a man in my life that we have similar goals, we have similar drives. Now we are very different in some ways, but not enough for it to be like problematic or anything like
Hmm.
that. He's my friend, like we're best friends, and I think that that's so important in a relationship. Everybody's relationship is different, so I'm not out here to say like what your relationship should look like, but
Totally.
if you don't enjoy that person, if you don't find them fun, that's already a basis for, of course, you couldn't work together because
Hmm.
there would be that friction and stuff. And of course there is that too. There is friction and things like that of me thinking I can do something a better way, or him being like, no, this is the way we need to do it. And so we've had to learn how to navigate those disagreements, but they're not really disagreements. It's just each of us does it because we want the best outcome.
Totally.
And that's not us against each other, that's us against a problem. And when you realize that, it changes your perspective from this to this. So most of the time we can usually solve stuff pretty quickly, and it doesn't usually cause issues. But the time together is probably the biggest thing,
For sure.
because we're together 24/7. I mean, and I've heard people make comments about like, man, I'd kill myself if if I was
Yeah.
around my spouse that long. And I'm like, whoa, shouldn't you like that person a little
Yeah.
more, or something? I don't know.
Isn't that
But
your person? Yeah.
yeah, that's supposed to be your person. So now we've been married almost 5 years, for context. So some people are like, oh, that's a long time. Some people are like, that's not that long. So, but we've been doing this for almost 3 years, and we've gotten into a really good rhythm about how we do things, how we delegate tasks, who does what, and things like that. And so that works really well. But we've also found that even after 3 years of being together 24/7, we still have stuff to talk about. And the
Totally.
reason why we still have stuff to talk about is because nothing is off topic. We'll talk about billboard signs that we didn't agree with, or we'll talk about, space and time. And like, it really doesn't matter. And we also take time to be quiet,
Yes.
and just just don't. There's times where we don't talk to each other for hours, not because we're angry or anything like that, but there's just this comfortable silence.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
just, I'm looking out the window, he's driving, there might be some music on. I edit a lot of things when I'm driving and have good enough service,
That's
and
smart.
like, just do that type of stuff. And that kind of gives you a second to be able to be in your own head. And so then you don't have to worry about that other person in there. And I think that understanding and respecting each other's time is important. There's times when I'll go to talk about something, and he's like thinking about something, and he's like, can we talk in like just a second? I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure something out. I'm like, oh yeah, you're good. But to have that like understanding, to not get hurt, like, oh, you don't want to
Yes.
talk to me, or like, you
What
don't
could
have
you
to
be
be like
doing
that.
that's so important? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's over there trying to figure out what to do with the differential of our truck or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be over here. Don't mind me. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It really, really is. But it does take diligence.
Hmm.
You can't just like half-ass it all. I mean, I hate saying it like that, but you can't. And so just being respectful of the other person, and just all of that. I mean, it really, we've learned a lot about each other and how each person handles stress in the last few years. I mean,
Totally.
we used to have our own careers and jobs, and like, now we're in the same path, and it's like, oh, this is how you deal with that situation. All right. I've learned that he's not good with customer service, and that he's
Perfect.
not good on the phone with people, and I'm great with that. So like, we've learned how to go, how can we really benefit off of each other's strong suits and things like that. And he is just incredibly smart. I mean,
Hmm.
he's like not paying attention, but he is so smart. He can figure anything out. So when it comes to like truck stuff, I can help with maintenance, but I can't figure out what's
Hmm.
wrong usually. He does, and he's like, all right, here's how we're gonna fix it. I'm like, cool, great, give me the tools. Like, I know what to do now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that really just makes it so that we try to be a little bit of a power unit, get it all done.
Yeah. Power couple.
Yeah.
When you say that 5 years, maybe that's not a long time. Maybe it is a long time. It for sure is the appropriate amount of time to see if you jive, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
is this going to work or whatever? It's 5 years is a good number. Yeah, it's super important. Like you said, it's like your friend. He's like your best friend. When my best friends rattle my cage, I speak up about it right away, because it's like,
Yeah.
listen, dude, you are kind of pissing me off a bit or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't line this up, or I don't get what you're saying there or whatever. People that aren't your best friend, you're not going to do that with. And I think that's where a lot of people in their relationships start to kind of fall apart, because they're just like, nah, I don't want to upset them. But it's like, but it's going to happen again. Like, if you just brought
Yeah.
it
And the
up.
resentment resentment
Ah,
is what kills relationships. I mean, it could even be the littlest stuff over time. And then eventually,
oh,
you
just
know, there's
turn.
that lack of love and
Mhm.
consideration for the other person. And then that's just such a dangerous downhill. Like you have so much healing and work that needs to be done if you get that far. And
Totally.
we've been through rough spots. I mean, believe me, there's been stuff that we've had to really try to figure out. And neither of us are perfect, but recognizing that neither of us are perfect and to have that
Yes.
grace and forgiveness to each other and be like, I want to give you the space to grow. And I expect that of you. You know, like if he were to be like, nah, I don't want to work on that problem, or if I was like, nah, it's not that big of a deal. No, it is that big of a deal. Like
Yeah.
you need to be willing to change and grow. And I think a lot of people say you never change and all people change. And I think
Yeah.
those sayings can be simultaneously true because the core of who you are doesn't usually change,
Yeah.
but how you deal with situations and how you like learn to handle stress and things that absolutely should change. We're supposed to change. We're supposed to grow.
I
That's
I chalk that
that's
up to
life.
growth. Yeah, I
Yeah.
chalk that up to
Yeah.
growth big time because I always say that fundamentally people don't change. If somebody's,
Right.
if somebody's a liar, let's say, they're always going to be that person. But if when people choose to change, it's a decision. It's just like you don't smoke. It's the same thing. I'm just not going
Yeah.
to do that anymore. It's not who I am or whatever. But fundamentally, people are capable of what they're capable of. But yeah, so I agree with that for sure. When you mentioned quiet, in my younger years before I was smart, I had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend who they wanted to go on like a week vacation or something, like a girls thing. And I was like, yeah, go do that. And as we're getting closer to it, she's getting more upset where it's like, well, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to miss you. And I'm kind of not like, I see the benefit.
Yeah.
I see the benefit of it happening. And she goes, well, aren't you going to miss me? It's not going to be the same here without me. And I was like, can you imagine how quiet it's going to be without you
Mm,
here? And that was taken very wrong.
I
Oh
that has to be taken with so much
yeah,
like you have to set your pride aside, especially as a woman, because we want to be heard.
yeah.
So it's hard. Yeah.
I'm
So
just sorry.
sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, Dad, I've always liked quiet. It feels like my brain is always on the go. There's always like a tin can rattling around in there. So
Yeah.
when you do get quiet, it's like, oh, this is just so nice. But I
Yeah.
don't, it's not how I conveyed it, I guess.
No, I get it. And it's taken a little bit of work for me as a person because again, I want to be heard and things like that. And I tend to talk a lot. I just
Same.
do. I'm a talker. And that's okay and all, but you do have to learn to listen. And I've struggled with that in my life. So a really wonderful example is actually a couple weeks ago. I flew up to Alaska for a trip and he stayed home to work. And I was up like way up in Nome. So I didn't have good service. So we didn't get to talk much. And you know, of course I missed him. And I was like, oh, I wish you were here. Like this would be so fun to experience together.
Yeah.
And you know, so when I got home, we had like this discussion of I was like, did you like what was it like while I was gone? Did you enjoy the peace and quiet? And he was like, yeah, I did. He's like, it was really nice for it to be quiet. But you know what? I was doing something and I think he said he was playing a video game and he's like, and I beat the level. And I turned around to tell you that I beat the level and you weren't there.
It's
And to
those
me,
moments.
so it was like, oh, that was like, you know, it, yeah. So like you can have this quietness and
Yeah.
not have to be talking all the time to realize that you still want that person. You still want them to like share your achievements. You want to share things that happen in your day and stuff. And like I was up there doing stuff and I wanted him there to experience it with me, but like I had stuff going on. I didn't have time to like worry about what he's doing and stuff. I know he
Yes.
misses me. I
Yeah.
miss him too, but you can't like focus on that. So I think if I were in a different spot in life, like maybe a few years ago, like when we first got married, if he had said that, like, yes, he enjoyed how quiet it was at home, it would have hurt my feelings. But he also knew to follow it up with, like, also, this was the experience that I had that
Hmm.
reminded me that you weren't there. And he even said, there was like 5 or 6 things that happened when he was working. He was trying to do this load and like bad stuff just kept happening. And he's like, my life is just falling apart without you here to help me with work. And I was like, yeah, it is, baby. You know, it
Yeah.
is. So,
Yeah.
but
Keep that
you know,
in
it's not
mind.
just,
Yeah.
keep that in mind. You keep me around. So, yeah, but it's special, you know, to
Yeah,
realize that's your person, you function together and stuff. But I think that I think it's very easy to let stuff hurt us like
totally.
that when it
If
doesn't
you allow it.
necessarily, yeah, if it does, even if it's not meant to be hurtful, it can
Hmm.
be that. It can be, it can feel like that most often.
One of those signs of like a really healthy relationship is just like what you were saying. So let's say you got a trip or something like that, and somebody goes, "Well, what's it going to be like when you're not around?" And they focus on the things that you do for them as opposed to focus on the things that they'll miss you for. And we hear that a lot. We're doing a
Yeah,
lot of like a little bit of backstory. Like last year, I started the podcast. I kind of like stumbled across this community that we have in the drywall taping industry,
yeah,
and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start traveling more. I'm gonna start working with other people more, like really get into the community. And
that's so cool.
it's so cool. I've had nothing but good times since. But what I was saying is like you talk to people about, would you be able to take 2 weeks and come and crush a project? And some people are like, I think that'd be fine. And then some people are like, these are all the things that I do at home that I don't think would happen if I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like their
Oof.
responsibilities.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's very limiting.
yeah.
It's very limiting.
That's so hard because I hear that in a lot of relationships, especially like traditional ones. And
Totally.
I do think that like my husband and I have a little bit more of a traditional relationship, but we also both of us there's no task that's off limits to
Hmm.
the other person. And we just do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And I am so thankful that I have a husband who is willing to clean, is willing to do
Yes.
dishes. And I feel sad saying that because it feels so simple, but he does the dishes and the laundry when I'm like sick and it's no problem. And
Hmm.
a lot of times he ends up doing the dishes because I hate doing the dishes. I don't
It's the
mind the
worst.
laundry.
Yeah.
I hate it. So, but he doesn't care. So he's like, okay, I'll do them. Like, that's fine. And I'm so appreciative of that because we can share the workload, not in a way of like 50-50. It's just we do what needs to be done.
Hmm.
And
It's a team.
that's, it is. You're a team. It's not this like give and take of you do this, I'll do this. And if you're not doing that, then I'm not going to do my end because then
I'm
that's just,
so
that,
stupid.
that doesn't work. That never works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways,
playing eye for an eye in a relationship is like the dumbest shit that you can do. It's like,
it,
I'm gonna sabotage it on purpose then. And you're like, okay,
yeah,
like
that's not
this
going to
will be
go over
fun.
well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, you had an excellent post the other day, and I right away messaged you and told you like, good on you. I'm proud of you for posting that because I know it would have been a headache. It probably still is a headache.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
hop on, and I'm reiterating this for everybody that's listening, but I hop on there to send the message, and the previous message was the piss bottle conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't even text you. I sent a video where I'm just like, okay, I'm calling,
Yeah.
I'm
So,
messaging you about something serious, and the predecessor is a piss bottle conversation.
yeah. Well, at least we know how our relationship's going to be now, you know, a little serious, a
Fantastic.
little, yeah,
Yeah.
a little funny. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah. I posted a video, that talked about trucker word of the day and trucker bomb. And that's basically just a pee bottle that a
Yeah.
trucker has. A lot of times they'll throw it out into um, just out to the side of their truck. They'll litter, and it's just so frustrating to do
Yeah.
that. But it's just a word that's used. Anyway, some guys got really upset to hear that like I've peed in a bottle before, and
It's
I
so
was like,
stupid.
they're like, you're disgusting. Like you know, you have to have access to bathrooms, and I was like, yeah, okay. Have you ever been on I-80 in Wyoming where it's like 150 miles between the next place that you can go? Have you
Yeah.
ever went to a shipper and they refuse to let you use the bathroom because you're a gross trucker?
That's so
Which just
stupid.
Yeah. So the one guy was like, "Yeah, I've been to New York and Ohio and Pennsylvania. I know what it's like to be on the road." And I was like, "Sir, I've been to 48 states
Yeah, I've
in
been
this truck."
everywhere, man. Yeah.
I was like, "You think that that's not over the road, especially not East Coast, because there's bathrooms everywhere. There's gas stations, truck stops everywhere. You go out west, it's some
Yeah.
cowboy stuff out there,
Yeah.
okay? Like there's you if you've never been camping, dude, like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal to pee in a container.
No.
You pee in it and then you go dump it out. You keep things clean. Like, how is that gross?
Well, and it's not
Anyways,
like for men,
I
it's
don't
very different. We just walk outside
right.
and just pee. Like it's that
Believe
is,
me, I've seen that with truckers too.
I bet. I bet it's quite a bit.
Yeah. Um, quick side note, when we used to hot shot out of a pickup truck, our truck was much lower and our windows were tinted, so you couldn't tell we were in there. And the
Okay.
amount of truck drivers that would get out of their trucks, and we're also about that 66 feet long, and semis are closer to that like 70 foot. So you know where their wheel wells are at, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the amount of times that a trucker would get out of their truck and go pee by the wheel well, and I would just get a
Yeah.
full
A lot of trucker
frontal of
dicks.
that. My my husband's like, "Don't look, there's a guy with his penis out," and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Okay, let me know when he's done."
He doesn't know you're
Yeah,
there, but he also
he
doesn't know
doesn't.
you're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyways, so anyway, yeah, side note. So that's what it is. That's the reality. Like you have wipes, you have toilet paper,
yeah.
and to be completely like upfront and honest, we don't even use like just a regular bottle. We literally use a medical grade pee container that they use in hospitals.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Like for people that are, yeah, it seals perfectly. There's like a little handle on it.
I know this thing. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So if you're a truck driver and you're trying to figure something out to not have gross bottles lined up, I'll link in the bio. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And if
But
you're
yeah,
not a truck driver and you don't like that, shut up because you're stupid.
shut up. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very like narrow minded and like I really want to say privileged. It's
It
a very
really is.
privileged mindset. Like to think that it's
Totally.
wild to pee in a container. What's different from peeing in your house? You literally pee in your house in the bathroom
Yeah.
into a container on the ground.
Well, where's your
Anyways,
bidet on the road? Like, well, I don't have a
God, I
bidet at home,
wish.
so I don't know what you're even talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it is.
That's so funny.
It's been a fun time. I have so many stories about that stuff, but we would take up the whole time with that kind of thing. So
We'll have a
we'll
piss
just like
bottle
trucker
episode.
vlog.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some other stories that have to do with number two. Not for myself.
Yeah, okay.
I would never do that, but my husband.
Yeah. He's really handsome,
Yeah,
but he's gross. I get it. No, just
he's a gross boy. Boys are gross.
I always say boys are gross. Whenever I
Boys
say
are gross.
something and people look at you and you're like, "Oh yeah, boys are gross."
Boys are gross. They,
We're supposed to be.
but we love them.
That's right.
I don't know. It'd be like that. I appreciate men. Men are great. I thank you for all the work you do that I
Yeah.
cannot do. I don't have a problem with that, but you are a little gross.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah, good men are great. I had
Yes.
the last episode I went through like a good men as opposed to nice guys, and it was
Oof.
it resonated
Yeah.
with a few people actually. I thought that was going to be like dude, where's your person that's coming on the podcast? Don't do that alone again. But it didn't. I got a lot of positive feedback, which was nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we started talking. Sorry, I started following you through Troll.
Yeah.
What a
Troll
great
clothing.
company that is.
Yeah. I was so pumped about that
I did
I want to tell you how I got connected with them
yep.
because it was kind of wild. I started sharing their stuff a little bit here and there because I found their products and was like, oh, this is super dope. Like bought their things and tagged them a couple of times. And I think they shared a couple of my videos on their platform. And I was like, wait a
That's dope.
second.
Yeah.
Like I could probably send them a message and be like, listen, like let's work together. So I sent them a message and was like, hey, is it an invite only basis or can I apply? And they were like, for sure, apply. And so I sent it, and within the next 24 hours, I've been accepted. And
Yeah.
Tron had reached out to me and was like, yeah, you guys are awesome, like let's get you rolling. And yeah, so I love being a part of the fam. Like, it's really connected me to some super dope people and wonderful opportunities, and that's what it's all about, really. So I'm really appreciative of that. That's dope that we connected through that. So
Same.
yeah.
Well, anybody that gets added to that, I follow them. Just so like you just want to stay on top of like what everybody's kind of doing. And then
Yeah.
yeah, you really do like very organically I've met and started talking to a lot of people. Like Eric's a hell of a guy. And
Yeah.
I met him through that, and like we don't know us talking every day, but like you're sending memes and shit, and like it's just friendship, it's great.
Connecting over the same things and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And well, and to be honest, I mean, would I normally find some of the people in Troll and follow them?
Yeah.
Probably not,
No.
right? Because you get stuck in your niche and you get stuck trying to connect with those types of people, and you forget that there's a whole world out there of like other stuff. And to be honest, I know nothing about like drywall or tiling or
Yeah.
anything like that. Know nothing about that. So to me, it's fascinating to watch all of these guys doing that type of stuff, and I'm like learning a lot. And now I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. And then they're really dope people out there. So even if their content wasn't something I would normally watch, I'm like, nah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna watch it now because you're really cool. So
Well, and it's kind of like the not I don't want to say the best of the best, but it's like the right people end up there.
mhm,
Like Tron is so good at that.
yeah,
He was on the first live that I was on with him. Like just listening, obviously. But he was like, I don't care how many followers you have. It's who you are as a person. It's your content. It's like what your beliefs and stuff are. And that to me is the right way to do it. Like, because people like to close anyways, man. I like Troll well before I even was buying it. Um, yeah, they did like a big boom of let's hit 100 assets, and I got in on the tail end of that. The Gilbert Taping
same,
Sisters kind of threw me. Yeah, I think we were like a week or two in between each other
yeah,
because it was I
I'm
was
pretty sure.
pretty fresh too. Um, I had posted a picture of me in their hat or something on my stories and tagged them like 4 days prior to that. And then when he reached out, for one, I didn't think it was real. I had to I had to
Right, like
like,
that's a bot. Bye.
yeah,
Yeah.
I said that's what
Tron, we thought
happened.
you were a bot.
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
because you're super jacked. It's
Yeah.
that's the only reason, buddy.
Yeah.
Um, Cameron Brown was actually asked the same time that I was asked, and we flew out west and hung out for a bit. And I was like, if they ever come around with another, invite thing, do you want to be part of that? He's like, oh, totally. That'd be so cool. So when I got back, I messaged and I was like, hey, I know I've only been here a little while, but this is somebody that I think would be awesome for it. And, to just take it for what it is. And he's like, yeah, man, I messaged him like 4 weeks ago and I never heard back. And I think it just
Oops.
looked like a bot and Cam fucking deleted it or something because he couldn't find
Yeah.
the message, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah. No, they have, I think that the referral type basis, like what you're describing here,
Brilliant.
um, if you respect people and you know people, like a lot of times those are going to be the better people. So if you're someone who, Troll found and now they're like, well, we really like you, it's like, well, I've got other people who I
Yeah.
know and I trust and respect in a similar, fashion. So I think that's awesome.
I,
Yeah.
I've kind
I think
of,
I started, sorry, I was going to say,
no,
I
go
think I
ahead.
started at like 1,000 followers
Good for
when
you.
I first kind of like was starting to use some of Troll stuff. And then I had a video that went viral and kind of had a little bit of a boom after that. So uh, I'm still a baby account. I don't consider
Same.
myself like a micro influencer or anything like that. I'm like, no, I'm a baby content creator. It's all I am. So
I
yeah.
love that content creator. It's anytime I hear influencer, I'm like, I'm not influencing anyone to do anything.
Well,
I'll
there's a
tell you.
difference, right?
I
There's a
think so.
difference. So,
Yeah.
well, no, there's an actual difference. So, an influencer, their content is about them. A content
Oh,
creator, their content is about their audience. Does
right.
that make sense?
That makes
So,
way more
like,
sense.
Right. So like are there aspects of my platform that have a little bit of influencer type stuff of like, oh, this is a product I use, this is something I use. Yes, but I have specifically curated a lot of my content for my audience. I don't
Right.
show my life and expect people to like me
Right.
and just be like, yeah, pay me money to be me. Like, I don't, no, I want to like put helpful content out there for people in this community. A huge project that I'm working on right now is women's workwear. I've been just
Huge.
reaching out to so many women's workwear brands. I mean, like, listen, I want to compile a huge list so that when the girls hop on my page and they're like, her work clothes are cute,
Yeah.
I got a plug. There you go. Like, that's
Um,
because I remember when you couldn't find stuff as a
literally.
woman in hunting or, you know, workwear, all that stuff. You couldn't find it. And now there's options, and I love that. So
So
yeah,
at the in the beginning of the podcast, that kind of stuff came up a lot of like they sure are wearing yoga pants or whatever, and is that appropriate and all this shit. And at the end of the day, is if you're comfortable and you're safe, I don't
right,
care what you're wearing. As
right.
long as it's not
Yeah,
like putting you in danger. Like if you had big long tassels and you were around machinery, it's probably a bad
right.
idea.
Yeah,
But just stuff like that. And then as the kind of podcast has evolved a little bit, I've reached out to different people. Like when Jenny came on, the committed builder, we talked about women's workwear where she used to have
yeah,
to either use her husband's or go buy men's clothes. They don't fit. They're super awkward. And
yep,
then now all these companies are coming out with like branded for women. They have hips, like they're not
yeah.
super
Because
baggy
our
in the
bodies
leg.
are
They're
different.
huge
We're
different.
different, you know.
Huge
Like
different.
most of us are, you know, framed differently and things like that. And when I was like really young, I used like I was into hunting, and I've been for
Mhm.
years and stuff. But that was like my first experience with finding out that women's hunting clothes don't perform. They suck. They're not they're not meant for the actual cold or
Yeah.
anything like that. They're just meant to look cute. And I'm like, that's not what I want here. So then I'd
Yeah.
buy men's stuff, but the smallest they would have was like 3 times the size that I would wear. So I'm like, do I buy something that doesn't perform but it fits me, or do I buy something that performs and doesn't fit me? And I'm like, this is my options,
Yeah.
really?
You look like
Yeah.
the kid from A Christmas Story. You know what
Yes.
I mean? And it's like,
Shoot your eye out. Yeah.
yeah, what should try it? Yeah, but I really like that. And the more I see it, the more I love it, where it's just it fits good, they look good, they have to be comfortable, and they're like you said, they're built to the same specs as something
Yeah.
I would use because I
It would
beat the
actually
shit out
perform.
of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it waterproof or can you walk in the rain for a bit before you get wet? Like, is it thermal or is it, shiny on the inside? Or,
Yeah.
it's
Something that I've had real problems with lately is women's gloves are
okay.
not built to handle the same amount of wear and tear that men's are. And I hate that because I have little hands, okay? They're not small for a woman's hands, but they're an
Yeah.
extra small men's, you
Yeah.
know? And I have gone through um like 5 pairs of gloves in a year.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I don't know how many gloves you go through, but my husband was going through 2 pairs in the time I was going through like 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not adding up. So I'm trying a different brand right now, hoping that it holds up. So far, it's holding up better than the last brand I was using, which bums me because I really liked the last brand. But if it's not going to perform, I'm not going to use it.
Now, are you giving feedback on stuff like that where you're like, hey, I've kind of switched brands here, loved your brand, it just didn't keep up? Like, do you do that kind of stuff?
I'm going to.
It's
I'm
super
getting
smart.
into that. Yeah, yeah. Because I finally have that. I have that platform where I've had
Hmm.
lots of brands reach out to me. I have so many PR packages at home right now, and I cannot
Ah,
wait to get home and be able to
yeah,
get into that. But yeah, I will. Like once I've tested these new gloves, I'm gonna be like, listen, I've tried these. They suck. Or
yeah,
at least for what I was doing, like abrasion. Like I'm using chains and straps. And the
yeah,
thing with straps is, no, it's not like heavy labor or anything like that, but it rubs on the gloves,
yeah.
you
It's
know, and it
sandpaper.
creates holes. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
sandpaper. So you got to have something that is really resistant to that friction. And right now, the gloves I'm using right now they're Carhartt,
Yep,
and they're
cool.
holding up a lot better than the other ones I was using. And the other ones I was using were from Duluth, which bums me because I love Duluth. A lot of my pants and things like that are from Duluth. So
I
If they
kind of,
can't perform, then they can't perform, you know?
and that's the answer. It's like, as much
Yeah.
as I love your brand, if your shit doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like it doesn't,
Make
and
make
it
your
might,
women's gloves better.
well, and the response to that, I'm sure, is going to be, well, not all women are dragging chains around and doing this and that. So we didn't build it for that. Okay, so build an extra super pair and I'll pay the extra $10. You don't have to
Right.
kill everybody with an expensive pair, but like, it just
Here's the thing.
gear your shit
Here's the thing.
towards it. Yeah.
What pisses me off is that my husband's gloves that were the same model, but men's gloves, had a thicker lining than the model that was the women's version. So they were the same glove,
That's
but
so
for women's
foolish.
hands, and there was an extra layer that was gone on it. That's where I'm like, no, you made the glove, but you just thought there's no way that a woman's gonna wear
Yes.
through this. And I'm like,
And that's kind of where I was
come
going
on.
with that. Or it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
a bunch of men are in a boardroom, like, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but I mean, like, a bunch of men are in a boardroom going, yeah, but, are women really gonna, do the same things as men? Probably not. So, like, we can make them like this instead. But it's like, no, dude, if they're buying this kind of a glove, it's because they're doing the same shit.
exactly. I'm
It
doing the
doesn't make
same
any
stuff as my
sense.
husband.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, maybe that is a rarity, but it doesn't mean it's not real, right? So
Well,
you got to.
here's my other thing about that. So what that you make a product that outperforms what the average wear is?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you're barely hitting the mark.
Yeah.
Why not just make a higher performing glove? And so what that it lasts the women who aren't using it as much way longer?
Well, like
What's the
John,
actual, I don't know.
yeah. What is the reason for that? And it's just probably money, right? It
Probably.
always seems to come
Yeah.
down to that. Jocko Willink's has a brand of his own that's all made 100% in America. 100% of the people that work there are American. Like and it seems like this stuff is bulletproof. It's like hunting gear
Mm,
and that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
But it's fucking expensive. But don't buy it if you don't need it. But if you need
Right.
something that's going to last and be awesome and help, the country that you live in, do it. It's
Yeah.
a lot of discussion about like the cell phones and like, Africa is a mess because of our cell phone usage. It just is. And then people,
Yeah, and we want to turn all the trucks into electric, and I'm like, we genuinely don't have enough rare earth metals to make the batteries for
yeah,
these semis. And my husband told you he's smart as heck, and
yeah,
he did the math that it would be required of how much power output we would need to be able to put out.
yeah,
And I don't remember the numbers, but it's impossible. It's
yeah,
genuinely impossible. It will not happen.
yeah,
Can't happen.
yeah. And it's, I
So,
mean, that's a real thing. It would be nice, right? Sure would be nice, but it's one of those things that's just probably not going to happen.
right.
And I came across something that was somewhat the same, where it was like this many batteries, this many trucks, this much runtime, just to charge those is going to do more damage than not fucking having them. So, what are you doing?
Well, and I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying this, but
It's okay.
diesel
No one listens
trucks,
to this.
right? Right. What if it blows up and then I get a bunch of hate for it? Anyways, diesel trucks are better for the environment.
Yeah.
They are.
Okay.
They are better for the environment. And if you sit down and if we were to really think about that, what we would do is we would do like trains. We would do an electric diesel truck is what we would do. That would be smart. The
Right.
truck engine, the diesel engine generating the power. That would work instead of having batteries and stuff. But the thing is farmers constantly have to put sulfur back into their soil because our earth is being stripped of it right now. And
Okay.
so there's not enough for plants to grow. Diesel exhaust literally puts sulfur back into the atmosphere. I
No
refuse
shit.
to like do your own research on this stuff,
Of
but
course.
look up the type of stuff that plants need to grow and then look up the type of stuff that's in diesel exhaust.
Yeah. That's
Do
cool.
your own research on it. But like honest to God, diesel trucks like gas, yeah, they're not great for the environment, but diesel really aren't that bad. They're probably the best option out of everything. And if we were to actually do what they do with locomotives, we'd probably be doing really great right now. But
Hmm.
there's not as much money to be had there, I think. And
Yeah, Elon, get your shit together.
Yeah,
You're killing
he's
us, buddy.
he's interesting. Yeah, he. You know, I like that he's at least trying new things, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's yeah.
I'm
Anyways,
I'm very limited in my understanding of certain things like that. I'll pick stuff up off of like Rogan. That's like my
I
news.
love Joe Rogan.
Me too.
That'd be so cool. Like the dream would be to get on his podcast, right? Like
Oh
you
my
got you
God.
you'll get there, right? Like you got to build up and then be like, all right, bud, let's do this. So
Well,
that'd be pretty cool.
when that metal fabricator built that thing for the mothership and he shared it
Right.
and then they shared it to the troll group, I was like, oh man, like that
That's sick.
is huge.
Yeah. Big
Uh,
win for sure.
it's a huge win. I felt like we won. I have no attachment to it.
Right? Yeah, you're like, go you. I don't even know you, but go you. That's how it is with the troll fam. We're just all cheering each other on and we have no idea who each other are, but you know, it's great. It's a good time.
I
So
like
much
that.
support.
I like that the other day where Tron came on and was like, just letting I feel blessed today, and like I hope everybody else is feeling blessed today. And it's moments like that where I kind of sit back and I'm like, do I? Because I don't think about it. Like in the morning, every morning, I talk about,
Mm,
what I'm grateful for and what kind of a day I'm gonna have. I make those decisions and then I go to work. But like during the middle of the day, having that like little 5 minute, yeah, I kind of do feel blessed
yeah.
this week or whatever. I've never kind of come across that in any of the other businesses that we've worked with. It's just, I don't know, it's cool. And I think
Yeah.
it's none of the, to be clear, none of the other ones have a big group chat though either.
Right.
We've got a pretty good group chat going for this big job in BC that's coming up. I think there's like 8 or 9 or 10 of us in that group chat, which is cool. But it's definitely not
Yeah,
a
that's awesome.
hundred or whatever the
Right.
troll group is.
Yeah. With 20 or 30 active members who like talk back and forth and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But yeah, it's awesome to be able to have to know that there's that support and stuff like that. And you know, if you're having problems with somebody in the comment section, we got you. You know what I'm saying? So
I
there's
really do like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the first day that I was added to that group chat, I hopped on and it was like there was an explosion of like 2 or 3 people were getting razzed on the comments and like they were ridiculous comments. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my God, is that all this group chat is? And like I got kind of bummed out about it.
yeah,
And then like 2 days later, it was no, it was exactly what I thought it was. And I was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
good. But you
yeah,
just you never know. But now when I see that kind of stuff pop up, it's like this is shit that's bothering somebody, and there's a group of us going, "Don't let that bother you. These people are sad
yeah,
and stupid." Like
yeah.
it's nice to
The
hear
support
that.
is nice. Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah, it's
Tron has to reel us in sometimes and be like, all right, guys,
totally
let's focus. But
yeah.
that's what's going to happen in a huge group like that. So, you know,
The thing that I like is when he says something, he's like, "Yeah, just need some sort of acknowledgement," and then everyone's like, "Understood," or do the salute or whatever. And it's
yeah,
like, he's the dad, kind
he
of
grounds us. Yeah, he grounds us for
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's getting
So I do.
spanked, but no more TV time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. That's essentially what it is. So I do kind of want to take a step back because, like, again, talking about you and like how there's so many awesome people on here, and I just don't even know that much. How first of all, how did you come to your username? Because
Oh my
I've
God.
only known you as Brawley's dad until like you introduced yourself to me, and I was like, so you have a real name, okay? So like, how did you? I assume you're a family man,
Yes.
if you got
Yeah.
dad in there. So what's with that?
So don't feel bad about that. So Nate's one of my good friends on here. And when he talks about me with other people, he says Brawley's dad. No one calls me Sean,
That's fair.
which I love it. So way back in the day, I was getting into like bodybuilding stuff, and Popeyes is like a supplement chain up here. It's not the chicken,
Okay.
to be clear.
Where are
I
you
got
from? Sorry, just pause real quick. Where are you from?
Ontario.
Okay.
So
Okay.
basically the GTA. It takes me about an hour to get to
Gotcha.
Toronto. And it was one of these like transformation challenges where it's like you've got 8 weeks. What can you do in 8 weeks? So you send in your
Yeah.
before and after, and for every post that you do on your Facebook, you get entered to win these kind of like weekly prizes. And they were like, if you have an Instagram, you can do the same thing, and it's double. So I was like, okay, what do
We
I?
like double.
What? Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
100% more. I'm in. So I kind of looked around and I'm like, what the hell am I going to put this as? And my son was sitting there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm John Brawley's dad, I guess.
All right.
He's got a very unique name, so I knew it was going to be
Yeah,
on there, and
I
that's what
think
it
it's
was.
cool.
I
I
like
I
it.
do.
I like
Yeah.
it. Um, and then when I started doing construction, I had a buddy that kind of got drywall famous. He did really well, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it too. And it keeps you accountable for what you need to do in the day. If in the morning you say you're going to do something, you better fucking do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you need to explain why you didn't do it. And it did
Yeah.
really good for me. And I kind of grew a little bit of a following. And then I had this person um, go back through like way back and like a bunch of pictures of my kids.
Oof.
And I was like, yeah, we're done. So
Yeah.
then it was like, what do you change it to? And I was like, everybody knows the Brawley's dad thing now. So I guess it's
Yeah.
Brawley's dad construction. And then that took off. So that's like all of our branded gear is Brawley's dad. And yeah, I don't know. It just makes sense.
What did
I
you
think
do with all your family's posts? Did you archive that stuff or
no,
did you just
I
kind of leave it? Okay.
made a whole new account and made the other one private.
Okay.
And so
Awesome. Yeah.
my
That's
my
good. That's
my
good.
my real close friends are on that one because it's like the stories on that are just like dick and fart jokes, and like it's the opposite of this one
Yeah.
because it's funny, but it's closed off. If I don't think you've got a good sense of humor, you're not on that one.
No,
And
I understand that.
some people don't even know that it's a thing, so it's not like I'm restrictive about it, but
Right.
it's just different. Um, yeah, and that's kind of where that came from. I've got a daughter as well, so she just turned 6. Um,
Aw,
yeah, right. And
that's so fun.
I've got a whole
I
brand.
love that age. I do.
Oh, it's
I've got
great.
nieces and nephews, and I love that age. I really do. But that's probably because I'm an aunt and not a mom.
Yeah,
So, I get to like hand them over.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good. I enjoy it. I'm waiting for the day that I like don't want to do it anymore, and it doesn't seem to be coming. Not children, the Instagram thing, to be
Right. No,
clear,
I got you. I got you. Just to be clear. Yeah.
right? Um, yeah,
So
it's
what? So with being a family man, and I assume that you're the breadwinner. Does your wife work or anything like that?
so,
Or
so I'm a single dad.
okay,
Um,
okay.
I was married when
So
I
you
was
got a
like
lot on your plate then.
20. Oh, it's yeah, it's insane. Um, and I mean, building the brand, like the first year and a half, I was like MIA. Like I was doing 16-hour days, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like it was just insane, but somebody's got to do it kind of thing. Um, and then I've gotten way better at it where I
Yeah.
actually schedule the time in my schedule, which sounds ridiculous as a parent,
No, no.
but
I think that makes sense.
yeah,
Actually, yeah.
it's in there and it's immovable. So
Okay.
if that doesn't work with someone's schedule, then it's just not going to work. And I didn't do that the first couple of years. Like my daughter went from 2 to 3 in a heartbeat, and it was just like, ooh, you know.
So how do
Um,
you, with all of that on your plate, how do you do the whole like self care thing? I know that's like that's kind of a feminine word or whatever, but like how do you take care of yourself so that you can better care for them? How do you make time for that?
um, you just make the time, and you also like speed through it. So, for instance, when I get upset about something or I get very emotional about something, I give myself like almost on a stopwatch 5 minutes to feel all the feelings that I need to feel about it. And then,
Dude,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
so smart.
but
I did that in college and people thought
yeah,
I was stupid for setting a timer of how long I'm allowed to
mhm,
cry about this. And I was
yep.
like, nope, after that, you get it together because people are relying on you. That's
That it,
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Because it's like in my younger years, my mental health was not there. So the smallest
Mm-hmm.
thing would ruin my whole fucking day and probably the week. And I would like allow that to happen because my feelings or whatever. And now it's like, okay, 5 minutes, you rolled around and kicked and screamed or did whatever you needed to do. Is this something that's going to ruin our life or is this something we're going to get over? And, you just get over it.
Yeah.
But come to terms with it. Think the things, feel the feelings. And if it's something that was that big of a deal, don't do that again. And if that's a person or a job or a
Mm-hmm.
food or whatever the
Yeah.
situation is, you just avoid it. Like that really bothered me, and I'm not going to do it again. And people can try and pay me to do it again. It's not worth it. It's
That's
it.
very self-aware of you to
Oh
say.
yeah,
I feel like there are not a whole lot of people who are that self-aware of their own issues
yeah.
to be able to be like, all right, I can't do that anymore because I know that's a problem.
Well, and in my younger years, like I'm absolutely a fuse, and I get that, and it's just under voluntary control now. But for years, it was just like you would just erupt over things, and it was
Yeah.
like damaging to your life. Like, not that it ever did, but I mean, you're not enjoying things when you're pissed off all the time. So it was
Well,
just like, how do we stop that?
and I've always like had the understanding that anger is a secondary emotion,
The
right? Like we're always
sadness.
angry about something. You
Yeah.
whether you're frustrated or you're sad or you're disappointed or
Hmm.
or you're annoyed, like it turns into anger. And
Yeah.
I find, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like men, you guys aren't allowed to have feelings, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not allowed to talk about things that frustrate you. You're not allowed to talk things that bother you, And so then a lot of men out there struggle with anger.
Yeah.
And like that's a dead ringer for not being able to express all these other emotions.
Totally.
And
I
and
oh,
that's just like that's hard. Like that breaks my heart for men that there are so many men out there that are like, I'm just an angry person. It's like, okay, do you need a hug? Like, I
yeah.
mean, is that like what is going on that's making you so angry? Because it's not just anger. Anger isn't this like by itself emotion. So
Well, and you kind
I
of
don't
hit
know
it
if you
on the
disagree with
head.
that.
No, I fully agree with that. And especially disappointment. That's one that you don't
Mm,
hear a lot. I like the goals that I set up for myself are ridiculous, and the things that I want to do are ridiculous. And it's like when
same.
I'm not hitting those goals, you're fucking disappointed in yourself. But you have to understand that it's like everybody's not doing this, right? This is like a mountain you've decided to climb or like a dragon you've decided to fight that nobody wants to do. And that's why it's difficult. It's not difficult because you're an idiot. It's difficult because you're pushing your limits and you're getting better and
Right.
you're failing and like you're doing all these things on a regular basis. Um, you have to understand that that's what's going on. When you land on your face and you weren't making a sandwich or like washing your truck or something, you were doing something super hard and you landed on your face. Don't do it again next time.
Yeah.
Or do
Yeah.
it again next time, and now you've got two
Do better.
failures and you can figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that a lot where because I'm super open with the guys in the group in any community that I'm in where it's like, it's cool to be upset, man. Like when you get kicked in the stomach, you got to feel that feeling. You can't just push it down. And it's shocking the amount of people that are like, no, men don't do that, men don't do this. It's like, well, they do, you
Yeah.
know,
Do you find that happen a lot in like men's
tons.
circles that they'll just shut it down? They're like, no, of course I don't struggle with any of that stuff. And it's like, yeah,
I
you do.
I
Like I know you do.
yeah, I
Yeah.
find more that when I'm talking to people about stuff like that, they're like, well, I didn't want to come across as a wuss or I didn't want to come across as like a crybaby, so I don't talk to people about it. And I'm like, well,
Because
how
that's what men are
stupid
told.
is that? Yeah,
Men are told that.
yeah.
Yeah.
In
I hate that.
one of the really early podcasts, I talked about like our parents' generation, where their parents' generation, you had a bunch of men that came back from war. So like,
Yeah.
you're sad. Oh, okay. Right? Like, do you know what war is? And that was
Yeah.
kind of and then you have these hardened men that are like riddled with PTSD. They're drinking everything away. Like there is no emotion in those men. But as I've grown up, those are the men crying at night in a barn somewhere, but they're just not
Yeah.
showing anybody. So then,
Right. They're disassociating. They're
yeah,
pretending that those are two different versions of themselves instead of trying to be, healthier about it and process it. And
yeah.
that's that's some heavy stuff, man.
It's it,
That's
it's you got to try and like figure out fundamentally. At least I try to of like what the fuck happened, right? Like, um, yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
our parents' generation just grew up and that's what they learned and that's what men did. And like when it sucked, they went to work. But like work isn't like being shipped off to war. So it was the better of two things, I guess. But I don't know, this like what men do and what men don't do. It's just so foolish. Everybody's people, everybody feels a certain way. Like you'd be a psychopath if you didn't have feelings.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
just that's
It's a natural human thing. Men might
yeah.
process emotions a little differently than women do. And like typically women have a little bit higher empathy and things
Yeah.
like that. But like my husband's ex-military. He went through a couple of things that really were hard for him, and he began to disassociate and not have empathy for things. And that was the red flag, when he
Yeah.
wouldn't feel bad about certain things, or he wouldn't get sad when like an animal got hit by a car, like, or something like that. Like men are like, oh, it's, you're not supposed to be bothered by that. Yeah, you kind of are. You're
It's
supposed to be
death.
able to push past it, but you're it's supposed to make you feel something like
Yeah.
that's normal. And so when he realized like how much he was just shoving away and wasn't processing and feeling, like he's like, all right, I gotta change how I'm doing things, because this isn't healthy. This isn't quality of life for him. Even if it wasn't just to, treat me better and things like that, it's like your quality of life is not as good
Yeah.
when you're not processing things in a healthier way.
And
And I think that men maybe put more on themselves than maybe they even need to,
yeah.
because men have such a high responsibility, and women do too. But I'm not going to disregard the fact that men really put up with a lot and are expected to act like nothing happened. And that's
Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, this like toxic masculinity thing that goes around, I get it. It's like a term that doesn't mean
yeah,
anything if you look it up. But
yeah.
I mean, not feeling your feelings. When I hear toxic masculinity, I think of the dickhead that is being mean to everybody because he thinks he's cool. Like
Right.
there was
Yeah.
a quote on that other podcast that was like, rudeness is the ignorance man show of strength or something like that. Like it was like,
Mm,
but that's what I take away from that. But I think these people not feeling their feelings, and then you're all bottled up, and then you're a dickhead to everyone you talk to, like that's what that is.
like you're also allowing your emotions to control you because you're not processing them. Men don't think that. They're like, no, because I'm not crying. I'm just breaking stuff. Putting
I
a hole in a wall because you're angry
yeah,
is your emotions controlling you.
that's right.
So
I
yeah,
used to say that to the guys on site because people would yell. I do not deal with yelling very well. Like it's like, do you
me
want to
either.
talk about who's bigger and scarier here? Because it's me every time. And I don't
Yeah.
do that. You know what I mean? So you can't do that. I'm not allowing it on my site. But the guys that give you the pushback, I would just tell them, listen, when you are yelling like that, I see you crying. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have no
100%.
control over your emotions. You might as well be crying right now. And I feel fucking bad for you, dude. Like
Yeah. I'd rather
so
you cry right now. I mean, at this point, because you might at least get it out. It's
yeah.
yeah,
And people think about that and they'll come back a few days later, like, yeah, that is what's going on. It's like, yeah, so
yeah,
stop it. Like, just don't
yeah.
be a crybaby.
I think a lot more men need hugs out there than
Oh
are
yeah.
willing to it from other men, right? Like just man to man. Like, do you need a hug, bud? Because you sound like you're having an awful day. And I
I
know that sounds, a woman would say that, but like
I
y'all need it.
I'm a huge hugger. Like, when we got down to Florida, first thing I did when I saw Cam, give him a big hug. Be like, hey man, it's good to see you
Yeah,
again. How are
that's
you
awesome.
feeling? Like,
Yeah.
but I think there needs to be more people doing that. I try my best to lead by example of what I think it would be better if everyone did. And it's hard and
Mm-hmm.
it sucks, but I
Be the
think
change you want to see.
and I'm seeing it now. After a year
Mm-hmm.
of really being like that, I see it a lot. I think it's a big help. Mental health is a brutal thing, and a lot of it is self-inflicted. Um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we talked about before, like the disappointment and sadness and all those things. When you have when you're emotionally immature, is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
All of that just gets funneled down into the anger one because that's how right? Like it's
Yep.
when people are upset, they do X, Y, Z. And I mean, if you grew up in a house with violence or things like that, you just understand that like flying off the handle happens and then, it goes away again. But it's not. this world anymore. It's just crazy.
Yeah, fully agree with that. I get it. The world is an ugly, rude place to exist in, but again, be the change you want to see. And if you're seeing a lot of hate, a lot of anger and things like that, you got to be the opposite. And
Yeah.
frankly, I refuse to believe that falling into the trap of being an angry, bitter person is somehow a strong response to the world. No,
Mm-mm.
being kind
Super
hearted
weak.
and loving takes so much effort in this
Yeah.
world. And I refuse to end up like that. I just, it's not it.
A couple of times people have asked me how, like, so how are you doing it all? It's a fucking nightmare. It's not fun, but you do. And then, but the days that you see change are like the days that you really think you help somebody, or the days that like you should have thrown a fit and you didn't. You get to kind of bask in
Yeah.
that, like, I didn't have to, and I don't have to, and I choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
And it, I don't know, it feels like strength a bit.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree with that. Something someone told me years ago, and it utterly changed how I like view everything. Um, is they told me the first thought that goes into your head about something, anything, is the thought that you've been conditioned to think.
mhm,
And the second thought that goes through your head is the one that you choose to believe. And the
right.
more often you choose to believe that second thought, the more that's going to become the first thought you have. And like that sounds vague and stuff, but you can take any example of anything. And I mean, my post was talking about like body image issues and stuff like that. And
Yes.
like I would have situations where I'd be like, oh, I can't have this number on the scale because that's what society has told me that I shouldn't have. I should weigh this amount, you know?
It's
And
crazy.
that's what I've been conditioned to think, right? But that's not what I choose to believe, you know? And
Yeah.
I had to start really think that first thought, no, it's not mine, and change and bring a new truth to myself. And that's like I had to do that with so many different things because I don't want to invalidate men's experience or anything like that, but women have it hard when it comes to our bodies. The world wants to tell you everything you're doing wrong with your body and like how it should look or what it shouldn't look like and all this stuff. And it's like, can I just exist and not be a problem?
Yeah.
Please. Thank
Well,
you.
I
Yeah.
mean, take a look at like the dad bod thing. You've got good men and they go to work and they kind of look like
Yeah.
shit. Like they're strong, but they're
Yeah.
not like gym
They're soft, you
rats.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the community as a whole goes, you know what? These are good men though. We like these men. But
Yeah.
like, where's the women's side of that? Like you guys
I
are all
think,
not you guys, but I mean, you're all
right.
still stuck in the past of this. Like, and I mean, in small town America, it's still like you're getting married at 20 and like you are to do this and you are to do that. And if not, there's
Yeah.
like real guilt in your community. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This
Yeah.
is terrible.
I had some of that growing up. So, I'm sure my mom is probably going to listen to this podcast. So, like, first
Hi,
and
mom.
foremost, I love my parents.
Yeah.
I love them. They really are wonderful parents. But I think every parent can say, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I could have done that differently." Every parent does that, and that's okay. It is what it is. But when I was younger, I would have to okay my what outfit I was wearing with my brothers or my dad
Yeah.
before I went out. And maybe they meant something else by that. Like, I'm sure that the intent was like, we want to keep
Safety.
you safe and things like it's safety, I guess, because what I'm wearing should matter. But, anyways, what I learned subconsciously that I had to really pick apart is that the men that I considered safe in my life were also sexualizing me.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from getting a body check from the men in my family. Like
Yeah.
I would go to my mom and be like, "Hey, is this outfit okay?" And she's like, "Go ask your father." And I'm like, I don't want to ask my, what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I don't want him to look at me like that and be like, "No, you shouldn't wear that out," because now I feel so unsafe and scared in my own family. Not that that would ever happen or ever be a problem and stuff like that. I really do trust my family, but that subconscious,
Hmm.
I'm being taught how to view certain things. And like, there was a period in my life where I wouldn't wear skirts. I would wear all my brother's hand me downs. I would never wear anything feminine or form fitting. I would wear like combat boots, no nice shoes, things like that. Anything. I couldn't even wear bathing suits. I would
Hmm.
wear a t-shirt and board shorts to swim in because
Yep.
I felt so uncomfortable in my own body because of just like how I'd been conditioned to view it. And again, I don't think that that's what was meant by my,
No.
my family. I don't think that that's what they were trying to do, but that's what I learned because I was like 10 and 13 and my brain was not capable of
Yeah.
understanding their perspective. All it understood is what made me feel safe.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Like yeah, that's a lot to process.
And there's a big spectrum to the things like what you were just saying, like I'm real good with that cough button. But the clothing check, right? The one end of that is like, this is kind of a little too attractive than what we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for. We want to keep you safe. But then on the other end of that, it's like, you'll never find a husband dressing like this. And it's like, well, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you supposed to do then? Like,
Yeah, it's like I want to just exist in something that I feel pretty in and that I feel good in.
yeah,
And what I'm wearing shouldn't determine my safety level. I
no.
understand that that's the world we live in, but man, it sucks. I mean,
It's
there's times when I go into the gas station with leggings on and I'm like pulling my shirt down as far as possible
yeah,
because I can see all the guys turn around watching me walk away. And I'm
yeah.
just like, but I'm in the truck for 11 hours a day. Can I wear leggings and go in for 5 minutes to the gas station to go to the bathroom and not have to change?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah, it's gross.
hard. It's gross. It's hard. I just want to exist. I don't want my body to be a problem and a distraction to other people. But
Well,
that's just reality.
mine certainly isn't. So I don't understand why the other ones are. And I
Yeah.
mean, when I think about that, because now I have a daughter, um,
Yeah.
I am way more involved with trying to change the world she lives in to make sure that things are better, not her. Because eventually she's going to want to be her own person regardless. So like you have to be there for them. And like, I mean, there's things that I would be like, I don't think so. Like, are you going on
Yeah.
an anniversary with your husband? Wear whatever you like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's
or
obviously
whatever.
like a line. It's this gray area, like there's
Yeah.
this normal and then we try to start pushing the boundaries and things like that. And that happens. So you kind of have to reel it in. But when it comes to like everyday clothing,
Hmm.
it's like okay, this is a bit much. And yeah.
Whenever I hear that kind of shit in real life, I don't let it slide. Where it's like, oh, look at this or oh, look at that. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
the fucking problem. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well,
And
and I got catcalled more when I was ages 13 to 15 than I
it's
have
so
in my
gross.
20s. So that's like that fear. I think fathers, more so than telling their daughters what to wear, should be teaching their daughters how to protect themselves,
Totally.
how to look out for themselves, how to pay attention, how to spot sketchy behavior.
Yep.
That's what we should be learning as women. And I understand that I am little, and if a 6 foot, 200-pound man decides he's going to do something, I physically can't stop him.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that's a
okay because you have 700 times more testosterone in your body than I do. I get it. But a gun, okay?
yeah.
Like, best equalizer for a woman. I've stopped two separate situations that I could have been,
Yeah.
hurt,
God
assaulted,
God
all these
knows.
things. And I had a gun.
Good for you.
Thank God I had a gun.
Yeah.
So,
I raised my son to be everything that I didn't like about myself. He's gentle and he's kind and
love that.
he's smart. He's passionate about things. He's driven about things already, right? Like we introduced that
Yeah.
kind of stuff so early because kind of idle hands, right? Like it's I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my problems were that I wasn't
Yeah.
engaged in things and I didn't have things I was proud of and like that kind of stuff. And then we got into bullying because he is this like super smart kid and he doesn't do the things that everyone thinks are cool because it's not cool to him. He does the things that it's cool to him. And when the
Mm-hmm.
bullying started, we were like, well, what are we supposed to do? We got him into private school because he really needs it scholastically too. And then we got him into jiu-jitsu and he's
Yes.
a blue belt
Yeah.
now. And
Heck yeah.
I kind of
I want to do that. I want to do that so bad.
I
I wish
think
that I wasn't on the
it's
road all the time. I one of these days,
it's
one of these
important
days, we're not trucking anymore. Yeah.
because I mean, nobody ever wins a fight, right? Like the fight's not a that's the last possible thing that you want to get into. But if somebody's coming at you and they're going to hurt you, you just put them to sleep and then get up
Mm-hmm.
and get away from the situation. You don't need to hurt anybody, you don't need to hit anybody,
Yeah.
but you can just incapacitate the aggressor and get
Yeah.
out of the way. And I mean, it's done great for his mental health, I think,
Confidence,
too. Where,
probably.
well, in the confidence of like, I'm going to live the life that I want to live, and if you are so against that you want to come at me, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right? I've lived that in my life. If we are in such a disagreement that it's going to get physical, good luck. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just the way I
Yeah.
grew up and where I grew up and all that kind of stuff. But I think things like jujitsu, like being able to use a firearm, being able to get
Mm-hmm.
something away from somebody, like that's really important. And I mean, like we talked about it briefly before we got on, but like you're in and out of truck stops. That's a like
Yeah.
people
It
disappear
is.
from truck stops all the time.
Yeah. I've
Because
had many situations for
yeah.
sure that have been sketchy, and I'm like, is this situation going to escalate?
And I mean
You
that
never know.
sucks.
Yeah.
But it's the same feeling for a man too. I call it when your ass puckers up, where you're just like, holy
Yeah.
shit, right? And
Yeah.
that term goes for a lot of things. Like when I'm doing things that are a little over my skill level at work, and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's
Those
that
moments of
adrenaline.
it's a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
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 Um, yeah, I think you're right though. I mean, if all those dads paid more attention to making sure that you felt safe as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
what you're wearing and what you're doing. And that's kind of what I was talking about before is like moving the world to a place where it's safe. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
you can't change the world, but you can definitely change your odds.
Yeah.
And it's a
And
big
that's
one.
that's all you really can do. That's really all you can do. You do the best you can, and then if something does happen, you have to realize you did the best you can.
100%.
Sometimes, crap happens, and it's not fair. None
Yeah.
of this world is fair. So, yeah.
Yeah. And anybody out there that gets all gassed up and it's like, well, I wish something had happened. No, you don't. Because it's like anybody that talks
No.
like that has not lost sleep over something they've done. And like
Mm,
the guilt that comes with certain things, right? Like one of my
yeah.
favorite quotes that went around was like, no one will ever understand the violence it takes to be kind or something like that.
Yeah. Like
Um,
all, people aren't dangerous because they're not capable of violence.
mhm.
They're soft. I know what quote you're talking about. I can't
Yeah,
think of what it is, but yeah, it's like you have to be capable of great violence in order to truly be peaceful.
yeah,
You know, and it's yeah, yeah. I mean, I thank God every day that I'm not a part of that statistic that has had that happen to them. But the reality of it is that situations happen a lot, and it just worked out that every single time I had a way to take care of myself. One time I did not have my gun, but I pretended that I had my gun, and that
smart.
alone saved me.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a parking lot. I was coming out from college. My class was a late class. It was like 10 p.m. at night. My car was the only car in the parking lot, and I was walking out to it. My gun was in the car, but it's not allowed to be on school property, so I couldn't have it with me.
Yeah.
you know? And so I'm sure in Canada, you guys are very familiar with,
Oh
that
my God. You can't
it's a
even
little more
have it.
strict where you guys are at. So yeah. Um, but I started walking to my vehicle, and this guy walking along the backside of the parking lot turned and started beelining it for me. He had his hoodie up. He's just walking
Oh,
fast right at me. And you know, my stomach was in my butthole type moment. I was like, there's a door behind me, but it's locked now.
yep.
And it's me and my car. He's in between. And what I did is I stopped. I looked right at him. I turned at him and I went to reach as if I was reaching for a gun. And
Smart.
that alone, I don't. I mean, the guy must have been a pussy, but like at the same time, I'm
Ah,
so thankful for that. But he turned around and walked away just because I looked right at him. I was like, I know you're coming
oh
towards
yeah.
me. I
I'm
went
gonna
to reach for something.
I'm gonna shoot you, no problem.
And I'm not. I'm fine that worked
Good for
because if
you.
he had kept walking, I probably would have turned around and
Oh yeah. It's like, well, that
ran
didn't
at the
work.
door. It's like, well, that
Yeah.
didn't work, but you do what you can,
Yeah.
because the other situations I've been in, I have had that, and I've been like, listen, bud, you're telling me all the things you're going to do to me, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to end you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Or
and that's
put
going to be that. Do you
put
really want that?
put you down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh man.
crazy. It's a
But
crazy
yeah,
world.
it
But
really
I
is.
mean, you should be able to defend yourself at the end of the day. Like it,
I'm a big believer in that one. It
yeah.
just, as a woman, we should always have tools that equalize us to men,
Hmm.
and their strength level. I really think that I'm never going to be one of those women that's like, oh yeah, I'm strong enough. I could play football with men.
Hmm.
No, you can't. No, you can't. And that's okay. That's fine, because men are actually supposed to be our protectors. They're not supposed
Yeah.
to be part of the problem. Like, I'm a big believer in that. But unfortunately, this world is very broken.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so I will always be super, super pro, you know, keeping yourself safe. I say pro 2A, but obviously you guys don't have that. But like, I'm very, very pro that. And there was a discussion the other day that someone was telling me you shouldn't have a gun in your commercial vehicle. And I was like,
Okay.
this is the Wild West, bud. Like, that's not, nope.
Well, and
My safety
you
is more important.
you kind of drive through the Wild West too. Like there are places that are not, I'll call it domesticated, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just regular stuff. Like,
Yeah. When
yeah,
I was in Alaska, so Alaska's very, very much, they're still the Wild West. I mean, they're a
oh yeah.
frontier. There's no government in some areas. And up in up in a certain area that I was at, they have a saying that's you got taken for a walk. And what the police in that area will do if they're tired of dealing with you is they will take you out to the tundra, and they will drop you off out there without a coat, without shoes.
There you
You
go.
know how many native people go missing every year because of that kind of thing?
But what do you
And
do with
it's like,
people like that? Like, and my cousin's a firefighter, and
yeah,
like these calls to go like save a junkie for the fourth time this week, and
that's
while
so
another
hard.
call's coming in. Like my sister was anaphylactic. Well, she still is, but she
Mm-hmm.
hasn't had an episode in a long time. But like I remember when we found out, and she was like turning gray on our kitchen
Mm-hmm.
floor, and those like milliseconds that they took off, right? When they got there, if they weren't like, I don't know how much longer she was going to be
Yeah,
with us. And they got there. And then I think about that kind of stuff where some druggie that is for the third time this week getting called in to be rehabilitated, like there
yeah,
could be a kid somewhere that needs that assistance and they're
yeah,
not going to get it because you're an idiot. And I mean,
yeah. It's hard. I mean, like, all human life has intrinsic value, I believe, but at the same time, it's like there are natural consequences to your behavior,
totally.
and it's just hard.
Yeah. When you are killing yourself three times a week for your own enjoyment, I mean, I think you're done.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a
I think
matter of
you've made your
time.
choice. I mean,
Totally.
that's you've made your choice. I think everyone is entitled to choose, you know. But again,
Yeah,
some people just really need a hug.
and
Yeah,
it's yeah. And I mean, even just saying that, and like the guys that are hearing this are probably going to be like, yeah,
yeah,
we could use a hug.
yeah.
Um,
My husband and I joke about that all the time. When there will be a guy that will flip us off or honk at us because we're taking up the intersection, I'm like, that guy probably just needs a hug, because that's just the type of people we are. It's
yeah,
just, it immediately changes your mind to be more empathetic, is all it does. It just makes
totally.
you go, what's going on in their day that makes them want to be like that? Because, like, honestly, it's sad more than anything. I'm not, I'm in control of my own emotions. Like,
Same.
I'm responsible for how I react. Like, if
Hmm.
I react badly to the way you're treating me, then I'm responsible for that. But,
And
you know,
that goes back to that, like every morning waking up and deciding to be kind, because when somebody cuts you off or whatever, you can almost be like, yeah, good. I'm happy. I'm happy you got ahead of me because you're
like, I hope
obviously
you
in a
needed
big
it more.
rush. Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
whatever doesn't bother me.
Yeah, do we
Um,
cut people off with our semi and they can't move us over with their little bitty car?
mhm.
Yeah, that happens too. So, yeah, a little bit of both.
One of those like good luck with that moments. Like I'm coming over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you
and
want to play chicken? You want to play chicken with 80,000 pounds? Go for it. Go
totally.
for it because we're going to win every time.
Do you want to talk about your post? Kind of
Yeah,
kind of
let's
kind of get
let's get
into
into
it.
that. Yeah.
Um, so whenever I see a post like that, I'm like, I stop and I read it because it's like, okay,
I appreciate
what's
it. Yeah.
what's going on here? Because it wasn't like a look at my butt now. Like it was
Right.
I look super healthy now.
Yeah.
And then as you read through it, you're like, oh my God, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I had a friend growing up that had real issues like body dysmorphia issues, and she had this loser boyfriend that like
Mm.
understood that and like played it off, and like
Ah, that's
it was a
awful.
really gross situation. But whenever I see stuff like that, and then somebody coming out and talking about it is huge because I that is those things that people need to hear. Like young women are going to look up to you, and you're not
Yeah.
perfect. I'm not perfect, and like,
No,
yeah, it's great where we're at here, but the path that we've walked down was rocky.
was
And
rough, dude. Yeah.
the more you talk about it, the more people understand that they're not the only one feeling a certain way, right?
And that's really important, I think, because I think I even wrote this in the post that I was like, if I read this back when I was in that situation, I would have hope. It would give me
Yeah,
hope. And I went back and forth about posting that for several days.
yeah.
I was like, I don't think I want to do this. So what I did is I actually posted it on my Threads account
Oh, good.
because I don't have quite as many people on there and like there's not as many people who know me personally, and so it felt very dispersonal. It was like, oh, this leap of faith, it doesn't
Yeah.
do well and people are really mean, I'll just delete it. But there was a lot of people coming out just saying like, I'm proud of you for being able to speak up, and I was
Hmm.
like that got to me, and it made me very emotional reading these things of people being like, hey, I've been in that situation,
Yeah.
or where I'm just like, thank you so much for posting this because this takes a lot of courage and things like that. Like that really got to my heart. So then I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit post on my
Hmm.
Instagram page and see how it goes. And then to see the response from there. There was even one girl who actually posted a transition very similar to mine and described a very similar experience. And she's like, this
Good.
person inspired me to post this. And I was like, that I was crying. Like
Yeah.
I was like, this is what I was could only hope happened, because there are people that are going to tear you apart. There are people
Hmm.
that are going to tell me I look better in the first photo, and that's like the last thing I need to hear,
Yeah.
And there was just a lot, and body dysmorphia is a real
It's
thing,
it's a real
and
thing.
it really is. And I always said I didn't have it. I was like, I know like I'm smaller and things like that because people would make comments. But when I look at pictures of myself from the past and I remember how I felt and what I thought of myself then, I could not see myself properly. I
Right.
couldn't. I couldn't see what I looked like. I have other pictures that I could post that are very probably triggering to some women where my rib cage is showing in clothes
Yeah.
that I'm wearing. Like I was so skinny, and
Yeah.
I've always kind of struggled with texture issues with food. It's not really like this anorexia thing where like I'm choosing not to eat. Now there were times I had that, but for the most part, like I was just really struggling because I would get like triggered by the way foods tasted, and then my body would tell me I don't want this, and so
Yeah.
then I couldn't eat, and it was like, what do you do? I've since learned, you know, what my trigger foods are, uh, like how to work through that. My husband is so helpful. Sometimes he'll be like, listen, I know you don't want to eat this. I know you're gagging because your body doesn't want it, but I
Totally.
need you to at least eat this much of it. Okay. I
Yep.
need you to do that. And
You
to
get.
have someone care about me and look after me in that way, and to be able to see how much food I'm really eating, because when I was in college, my mom would be like, hey, have you eaten today? I haven't seen you eat today. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, I ate at school. And I was lying. I mean,
Hmm.
I hadn't eaten, you know? And some of that was maybe this like idea of like, if I, lose a little bit of weight, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know what I was like thinking. Like, all I knew is what society was telling me. And society says, you need to be really thin and you need to look like this and blah 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 blah, and if you're not, then you have no value. And
Which is crazy.
it's just crazy. It really, really is. And it's crazy that we do it to such young women that we don't even realize what we're being conditioned to think until it's too late. Like you have to become self-aware enough to realize that you're becoming this type of person that thinks certain behavior is okay. Like when I started finally gaining weight, when I was lifting a bunch, I was eating a lot, you know, I was really trying to work on that stuff. I started gaining a lot of weight, and that's healthy weight, right? But my clothes stopped fitting me,
Right.
and I couldn't get into my clothes. And that was so hard for me. For some reason, my brain said, you cannot buy a size up.
Yeah, but that
I don't, it's stupid. It's nonsensical, but your brain tells you that. And my husband, boy, he is just so supportive. And he was like, listen, I'm going to give you a check and you need to go shopping.
mhm.
You need to go buy yourself some clothes that fit you, and you need to throw everything out that doesn't fit you.
Yep.
And for him to just be like, no, you need to be ready to take it. But because for me, I was like, I just bought these pants. I don't want to spend more money on more clothes. And he was so then I was like, so I need to like stop eating so much so that I can
Yeah.
stay fitting clothes. Like literally that's the thought process. And he's like, no, go buy more clothes.
Yep.
And that happened for 2 years where every 6 months I would have to buy new
Yep.
sizes. And that was like rough, dude. I hate that that was rough, but it's just a reality. Like it was just, and I still struggle with that occasionally. But like I was at the store, that first picture that I posted was I was at the store. I had their smallest size that they had available, and
You
it
could have
still
fit
didn't
two of
fit
you
me.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the
Um,
next picture was like a whole 2 sizes up, I think, or a whole size up. And like I'm filling my clothes out. So like
mhm.
there's like a 30 or 40 pound difference in those two pictures. But like the energy levels that I have, my
Totally.
symptoms for POTS are much more manageable now because like part of it was because I wasn't eating enough, you know, and when I had, I went through a rough miscarriage. I mean, all miscarriages are, but
Of
I
course.
lost a lot of weight then. And then that triggered a lot of things in my body because pregnancy destroys your body. It just does.
Literally. Yeah.
It really does. And I lost my vision. I went from having perfect vision to needing to have glasses, and I got diagnosed with POTS. My blood pressure just wouldn't
So what
like
is
I
POTS for everybody listening?
POTS. Yeah, POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome,
Okay.
and we actually don't. So the doctors don't really know what it is or why it happens, but it's a neurological disorder where your body, your heart rate, and your blood pressure, for some reason, will go through phases where they can't equalize. And then there's a bunch of other things like thermoregulation, like I can't stay warm or I get cold really easy, and I don't sweat very easy. My body just won't produce sweat. There will be spots of like you'll have anxiety, but it's really just because your body is spiking your adrenaline for no reason.
Well, it doesn't know what's going
Um,
on. Yeah.
yeah, so like there's a lot of different things that can
Okay.
happen with that sensitivity to like heat and cold. If it's really hot outside, my blood pressure will tank. So I prefer the
Really?
winter because I feel better during
Same.
the winter than I do the summer. So, but so like for an example, there was when I was getting like diagnosed, the doctor wanted me to track my blood pressure and my heart rate for like 3 weeks and then bring him all that information. And there were multiple days where my blood pressure, like my heart rate would be 120 and my blood pressure would be like 80 over 50.
Whoa.
And if you kind of know anything about what it's supposed to look like that's rough. And that would just be me standing, not doing anything. God forbid I try to walk up a flight of stairs or anything like that.
Yeah, you'd
Um,
pass out.
yeah, yeah. And I actually passed out in my bathroom one time and hit my head really hard on the floor. And my husband, bless his heart, he was in the front room playing video games. He's like he heard a thump and was like, that was weird, but didn't think anything of it. And then when I came to, because he didn't know, when I came to, I was on the ground and I was like, babe, can you come here?
Yeah.
And so he comes in and he goes, that was you. I was like, yeah, that was my head on the floor. So yeah. So there was like situations like that that were very eye opening that I was like, I need to do something different.
And I mean, at your weight coming crashing down, it's not like at my weight coming crashing down. Somebody
Right,
thinks
right.
like a meteor's hit the house, I think, if I,
Right,
do you know what I mean?
right. So like I like fell over and bumped my head. And I think I was in like a seated or kneeling position. So it really was like I didn't end up getting hurt,
Right.
no concussions or anything like that, but it could have been bad. You know what I'm
Totally.
saying? And there was one time last year during the summer, I was having really bad flare ups. My body just wasn't equalizing. It was hot out. And I almost passed out. And there was a piece of rebar on the ground.
Oh,
And I started to kind of fall over. And my husband, like, he saw and he like comes
oh
running over and
yeah.
he's like, you need to sit down. Like, you need, if I had fallen,
It,
I could have died. Like,
they go right through you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like, those things are things that make me very, like, they're frustrating
Oh, I bet.
because anytime your body tries to like make it so you can't do something, like you can't change
No.
that, and you're fighting against your own body. It feels very limiting. It's very frustrating to be at the mercy of your body, if I can put it that way. It's just,
There was
yeah.
another
So
acronym, ARFID.
yeah. So gosh, if I can remember what that stands for, it's
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
no, you're good. Basically what it means is that you have a sensitivity to certain types of foods. I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
like aversion to foods, restrictive something disorder.
Okay.
Um, and what it means is like your body for some reason will get triggered by certain foods, the texture, the taste,
Yep.
how it smells, and then it'll flip a switch in your brain and it'll tell you you're no longer hungry.
Yeah,
And
we should
it'll
not eat this. Yeah.
Yes, and it'll do it so much so that if you were to continue to eat, because it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm not hungry, but I'll keep eating.
Yeah.
Not only will it tell you that you're not hungry, it'll tell you that you need to vomit if you put that in your mouth.
Right. It's almost
So
like
it becomes very difficult to eat.
like naturally your body does that if it's like if something's old
Mm-hmm.
or like you're
Poison.
exactly, right?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough too.
Mm-hmm. So when I was younger, I didn't realize that I had that, and so then in all these situations where I'd be like, man, I'm starving, I could eat like a whole pizza by myself, and then I'd put one bite in my mouth, and suddenly I'm no longer hungry.
Yeah.
um, it was very confusing and conflicting to me, and it was conflicting to my family, and my family is like, what's going on with you? And so then I would just avoid eating because I didn't like the discomfort of not knowing whether my body was going to tell me yes or no to a food.
Well, and you're probably tired of that shit too, where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm starving and I want to eat something, and then it makes me
Mm-hmm.
sick. Like, well,
Yeah.
that sucks. And
Yeah.
having those conversations over and over and over again with people in your
Yep.
immediate circle of like, why aren't you eating? And you should be eating and all
Well,
this kind of stuff. Well, I don't want to have this argument every time. So I'm gonna,
yeah. Or if we would go over to people's houses and they would prepare this wonderful meal and suddenly I couldn't eat it. You know how like I felt
yeah,
like I was being disrespectful, and that was so frustrating to me. Um, but then my husband, wonderful guy, I bring him up a lot, but
that's good.
he started actually like observing when I would have those moments, and he was smart enough to figure out, no, there's certain types of foods that you don't like, and
Good
if
man.
that's in it, so then I realized some of my trigger foods are things that are slimy.
Yep.
So like eggs,
Eggs.
like literally eggs are a huge trigger for me, and they're so good for you. So I get so frustrated because it's like I want to build big muscles. Okay, I need eggs in my food,
Yeah.
but they're a big trigger for me. So the only way I can eat an egg is hard boiled, and even then that can be a little bit sketchy. So, but like there's a list of foods like that. Sometimes oatmeal will trigger me, but that's a big one that I eat all the time. And what I'll do is I will choke it down.
Yeah.
I will like I'll put a spoonful in my mouth, and it'll take me 5 minutes to like chew and swallow it without throwing up, but I get it done.
Yeah.
Okay, like, and now that I know that that's all that's happening, that I'm not actually going to throw up. Like I
Hmm.
haven't ever actually had that, but the feeling of feeling like you're going to throw up is so uncomfortable that you'll stop eating. But
Right.
when you realize you're not actually going to throw up, it's just your body being weird. It's a mind game. Like you have to play it a little bit. So
So,
Now I eat a lot more, so I can actually manage a little more.
well, and I
But
mean,
yeah,
you look really healthy now. And I was talking to a friend of mine about how excited I was about this podcast because it's kind of been a dick around podcast. Like we haven't really hit big issues, and I'd like to at least once a month get somebody on talking about something real like this, like what I
yeah,
did last month. And when I was explaining the post, I was like, very, very skinny, not like healthy. And then the next picture, you're healthy and you seem very happy now.
yeah.
I didn't know you
My
before,
hair
of
is
course,
growing.
but well, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. There's so
Well,
many
like
things.
there's so many things. In the picture prior, I was fainting, I was struggling to eat, I was really anxious all the time. I had really bad anxiety. I was like I had like skin picking things where I would get like that anxiety tick where I would like pick at myself and stuff.
Yep.
My hair was falling out of my head, my
Jesus.
fingernails were breaking. Like this is just a huge list of things. And like not to get like into really feminine stuff, but like my cycle was really bad, like all
Yeah.
of these really, really rough things. And now that like I have a good amount of healthy weight on me and like I have muscle now, like I have muscle mass that actually helps, and I'm really working on that. Like I don't have as many POTS flare ups. I can handle them usually. My hair's growing back very thick. So I actually shaved my head 2 years ago because it was
Okay.
so bad.
Just
So
tired
like
of it.
yeah, well, I was tired of it breaking and just not like being healthy and stuff like that. And I actually have a highlight um on my page that says hair journey. And it's from me shaving
Nice.
it. I have added highlights as it's grown out. I
Oh,
look back at that. That's more for me to look
totally.
back at and be like, this is what has happened and what has changed. So like I don't have nearly the amount of anxiety that I used to. I can digest food a lot better. My cycle's a lot healthier. My nails grow better. Things like I don't have the acne that I used to. That's like a
That's a
thing
weird
that a lot
one.
of people, yeah, like I used to have really, really bad acne. And like when I started gaining weight and stuff, that kind of like cleared up. And I was like, it's amazing what your body will accomplish and heal from if you just give it the chance.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well,
there's a
not
lot in between those two things.
it's probably a hormone thing, you would think. Like at
Mm-hmm.
least with
Absolutely.
men, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I saw body dysmorphia firsthand on the other end of the spectrum when I was working out with guys. And like
Yeah.
some of these guys were like, typically a bodybuilder beginner cycles like 500 milligrams of testosterone, right? And these guys were taking like 1,000 milligrams a,
Wow.
a week, and then
Wow. No.
uh,
Oh,
taking other things on top of that, and and I was like, buddy, you're
yeah.
enormous. And he's like, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm so small, and like I'll never be big enough, and there's not enough weight. And I was kind of like that too, because the journey, right? When you're bodybuilding, you're picking your flaws out. You're really
You are.
picking your flaws out, and then you're changing that. And that's where you kind of get that boost. But with some of these guys, it was like, this isn't healthy, dude. Like,
It's
and
not good
same
on your
same
head.
thing. Their hair's falling out. They're covered in acne. You can't keep a relationship because you're a wild
Out of your
person,
mind. Yeah.
literally. And
Yeah.
but I never understood that body dysmorphia until I saw that. I still kind of like, because I've been in such good shape, I am hard on myself the way that I look, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just, you could do better. Go do better.
I think there's a difference between like looking at yourself, being critical, and being like, all right, I want to change that is just like one thing, and it's not
Normal.
always the healthiest, but at the same time, it's like that's how you improve, or that's how, if you could say it differently, that's how you change. Because
Yes.
sometimes if you even word it like this isn't a flaw, it's just something that I want to change about
Hmm.
myself. Even the dialogue can make it healthier. Um, but body dysmorphia for me, like you genuinely can't
Yeah.
see yourself properly.
Yes.
And so that first picture that I posted, I thought I was fat
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was not. Nor is that even a bad thing, really, to have a little extra on your body. And so to even be conditioned and be thinking like that is like,
Just
I
crazy.
genuinely thought that like I was bigger than I was.
Yep.
And I mean, like, I know I have a little bit of small man syndrome. Like, I think I'm like a 6 foot woman when I'm really like 5'6". But
Okay.
but it's like you view yourself different. But this is like I genuinely can't see myself. And when I put those two pictures together and I showed my husband, I was like, look at this. And he's like, yeah, that's why I tell you, you got cake now, baby. Like you're great. So and he's so supportive of himself. But like I don't see it
Yeah.
until I look at myself very objectively, or like pictures of me from months ago where can pretend it's a different person. Like
Yeah.
I can't see myself accurately right now. Like I
Yeah.
would just like be like, oh, this looks wrong. Your blah 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 looks like this. You're stubby and short. I don't know. Like it's just like you don't see yourself right, and that's
Yeah.
what body dysmorphia is. It's just not being able to visually look at yourself accurately.
My friend that went through that, it was the same kind of thing. And like you'd end up going out, like going to a club or something, because we were young still, like in our 20s. And like she'd put on a beautiful dress, but it's like, we can see your ribs and we can see your spine, and like it's you're
Yeah.
honey, you're not healthy, right? But you can't tell somebody going through that they're anything other than, because you're just adding to that shit. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
your best
Exactly.
friends telling you that you don't look great. Well, thanks, bro.
Yep.
So
I had
it
the same thing where people would be like, eat a cheeseburger, or you look like a skeleton, or just there was times literally when I got married, a woman told me, like I was even for once, I was actually eating, and she was like, careful with how much you eat or you won't fit into your wedding dress. And I was
Jesus.
like,
Yeah, I'll get a new dress.
you
Don't
know how
worry about it.
skinny I was? No, like you know how skinny I was when we got married, because I was like the height of my struggles. Like I didn't again, we've been married 5 years now, and this has been that before and after. That was 3.5 years ago. So that was within the first
Wow.
years of us being married, that I have like that has changed. And genuinely, I'm not saying it's all him, because I've put a lot of work into myself, but
Totally.
having someone there who sees you day in and day out, sees your food choices, sees the things you do, and goes, hey, I know you're not happy with what's going on right
Yeah.
now. And I'm not going to tell you you look rough. He never, ever, ever said things like that. But he said, baby, you got to eat more.
Yeah.
Like you're passing out because you haven't drank any water today. The only thing you had today was coffee and a banana. Like, of course. And then, of course, like when I got pregnant and like, I was blaming myself that I lost the baby because of the struggles that I was having and stuff. And, like I won't get into all of that, but like, there's that dynamic of just like blaming yourself for
Yep.
just not doing what you should be doing. And that's when I realized that working out and eating right isn't about aesthetics, and it
No.
shouldn't be about aesthetics. And if you make it about aesthetics, you will always fail.
Yeah.
It should be about your quality of life. It
Totally.
should be. And when I changed from there to there, that's when I made a real difference in
So
how I felt, how I looked.
when I started that like working out journey, I passed out trying to put my boots on, because I was like I had none of this upper body. I was just like a pear.
Yeah.
And I like was drinking like shit and eating like shit, and just like it was just, I don't know. I just didn't understand what was going on really. And yeah, my girlfriend came downstairs. She's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like,
Totally.
"Did you just pass out putting your shoes on?" Yeah. Maybe it's time for a change. Um, but I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of make a big jump between everything's totally fine to like, oh, this isn't fine. And
Yeah.
you start to really look at it and you're like, oh man, this is like really not fine.
Yeah.
And then you
And
do,
if
and
both you and I could get that message out of like
totally.
change it before you have that moment,
Yeah.
because it will happen. And if it happens, in a couple of weeks or years down the road, you're going to have that moment where you realize the abuse that you put your body through, that
Hmm.
it's tired of it.
Yeah.
When I was in college and I was going through getting my degree, we always said the body will whisper at you until it starts screaming, and you're going to not like it when it starts screaming at you.
That's great.
So
I like that a lot. Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty wild. And
Sorry, I have a
I,
dog that's like, come
it's all
here.
right.
She's like wanting to like sit on
Ah,
my lap. This is
that's fine.
Maggie. What are you doing? You distracted
Ah,
me. We have to be on here.
This is a
But
gorgeous dog,
anyways,
by the way, for anyone listening.
yes, yeah. For anyone that you can't see, there's a beautiful dog that's putting her face up here.
Ah,
Yeah. Anyways, you're totally right. I mean, and the reality of the matter is that men and women both have those things happen. We just experience it in different ways. And I think that if
totally.
men and women would speak up about their situations, that would really help the younger generation.
I am a firm believer in not complaining about things. Like if you have a goal and you're doing things to get to that goal and you want to complain about it, I'll listen all day long. Like it sucks switching all of your food stuff around and getting to the gym or like learning something that you're not used to. That all sucks, but it's part of the journey. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
doing anything about it and you're just complaining all the time, I have no time for that. I have
Hands
no
down.
time for
Yep.
that. I'm
I
of
can't stand, yeah, I can't stand that. I used
fucking
to have a really close
complainers.
friend. Yeah, I used to have a really close friend who was like that, who she would do nothing but complain to me. And whenever I would try to be like a little bit of positive, she'd be like, "Oh, you're being toxically positive.
Yeah, you're
Like
attacking
I
me.
need to I need to vent and things like that." And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm hearing no solutions, and
Yeah.
you're complaining about the same thing over and over again." And that's like, I'm not down for that. I'm here to say like, man, that sucks. Let's go and change that. Not this like, let's complain about the same thing day in and day out. I
And
can't do that.
and
That's
those are good friends. Like everybody in my friend group know if they call me with a problem, I'm going to shoot it straight, and you probably don't want to
yeah.
hear it. But when it comes to a big issue, you do, and you should hear it. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be the one that has to tell you, that's fine. Like I'm totally okay with being the asshole of the group if it's a constructive thing, because it's like
Yes.
I'll tell you what your problem is. I can draw a
Yeah.
line between two dots pretty quick of, I don't have any time to do things. Okay. Are you doing a journal for what you're spending your time on? No. Because if you did, you'd realize you're sitting on your ass a lot. And then you would
Yeah.
change it, but you're not doing that because you don't want to see that because you will have to change it. So get out of here with
Mm-hmm.
your fucking complaining all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the same hand, there are a lot of men out there just like working their ass, men and women,
Mm-hmm.
just working your ass off, and it fucking sucks. But that you should be talking about, because there are people
Mm-hmm.
like you and there are people like me that, yeah, it does suck. It gets better. It gets easier,
Yeah. It
right?
can get better.
It
That's
can't,
what it
yeah,
is. It's like,
yeah,
it can get better if you would just put in the work. And if you would like start making promises to yourself that you actually keep,
yeah.
because there were so many times that I made promises to myself that I wouldn't keep, and then I didn't trust myself to hold my own word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta for you. And I had a coach tell me, wonderful woman, she's great. And she told me, she's like, sometimes you just have to do something for the tomorrow you.
Hmm.
Think about yourself tomorrow. Like, you want to make your coffee the night before, like get it ready so that it's ready for you in the morning, and be like, you know what, future May is gonna love this. You
Hmm.
know, future Sean's gonna love this. They're gonna love it in the morning when they already have their coffee made, because I did it for them the night before because I was thinking about them. And if you do
Totally.
that with anything in life, working out, eating well, like, man, they're going on a trip. They're going to feel really good about themselves if I make sure I eat right for the trip so they're nice and healthy. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's, so
100%. And I
it
think
can get better.
a lot of people do it the other way, where it's like, nah, that's tomorrow Sean's problem. It's like, okay, so you're going to add to
Yeah,
you've got a shitty life, obviously, because you're not happy. And then what you're going to do is add more to that. And
yeah.
and that is your frame of mind. It's crazy.
Would you be friends with you? Would you
No,
be friends with you
no.
if you treated your friend? If someone treated you like that, would you want to stay friends with them?
I
No.
I say this all the time that I treat other people way better than I treat myself. And now that I'm a little
Dude.
more aware of it, it's
Yeah,
better. But yeah, for
yeah,
years, which
yeah.
is hilarious because if people I talk about working out quite a bit. I'm not in great shape right now. I'm building a business. I got a bunch of stuff on the go, whatever excuse you want to hear. But
Yeah.
I've been down that path. I understand that path. And if it's to help people, I'm happy to talk about it, but there's a lot of bridges that connect to like discipline and confidence and all of those
Absolutely.
things that the gym really teaches you. Like you don't want to
Hmm.
get up and get sore again, but like you do, tomorrow
Hmm.
you does wants you to do that.
Hmm.
Um, man, I can remember, so I was super, super heavy, and then I like jumped on this train of like I'm going to work out every day, and I'm going to put in an hour every day, and then I got down to like 240 or something like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
308, something like that now. But I kind of stood
How
back
tall are
and
you?
6'3" ish,
Okay. All right. That
but
makes sense.
maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
more.
Okay.
Um, but and then I looked at myself and I had like loose skin and like I was like, okay, so this is gross. Let's go. Let's
You went a
find
little too
a middle.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
but you get on a path of like this is gonna change and I'm gonna change this. And like sometimes your path varies, man. It's
Hmm.
and then I found that like healthy place where it's like, yeah, I eat a pizza when I feel like it. And then that little voice in the back of my mind's like, tomorrow's gonna be a rough day at the gym because you're eating this
Yeah.
pizza. But you
Yeah.
just do that. You accept the punishment because you want to live your life.
Well, and I think that's healthy too, like mentally, to
Yeah.
allow yourself to never box yourself into this unless you're competing.
Yes.
You
And
shouldn't be
totally
restricting
different.
yourself 100%, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're competing, yeah, that's what you're doing. Like I fully support that. But like go live a little.
Hmm.
Don't punish yourself with food. Don't treat yourself like, oh, well, now that I ate a brownie, I need to go run 3 miles, because
Hmm.
that we were talking about relationships, how if you do this give and take, your body and you have a relationship, you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've got to just give that grace of like, it's okay if you do a little bit of that now. It's okay if you allow that,
Yeah.
because if 80% of your life is being really disciplined and treating your body with the utmost respect, it's okay what you do with the other 20%.
I think before I understood what discipline really was, everything that I did for myself was punishment, where it was
Mm,
like, whatever you do, this is a punishment for doing that. Like, if I was halfway through a set and I was like, man, I think I'm putting these down, and I would be like, nope. And now we're doing another set. Like, and it was not like because I love myself. It was because like
mm-mm.
you lazy fuck
Yeah.
and it,
Is that like a man thing? Because my husband has said stuff like that too, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna punish myself for being like a piece of crap, and that'll make it better. And I'm
yeah.
like, when is treating yourself badly ever going to give you true benefit? That's
Well,
not.
I think if you were to ask me the question, I think all of us understand punishment
Mm,
inside and out, right? Because it was part of our growing
yep.
up. Discipline wasn't. And some
Mm,
people it was, and those people flourish because they understand like a hard work today makes tomorrow easier, right?
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't know. I can remember my watch going off every 3 hours, and I had to eat more rice and like eat more chicken, and like
Ugh,
I was putting chicken broth in my rice so I could just swallow it.
ugh.
Like it was so gross. But
Yeah,
it was like,
that's
man, how many of these things am I going to eat today? And then you look in your bag, you're like,
yeah,
oh, 6. Like I know how many. I'm tired of chewing, man.
yeah.
Like I'm so
It's
done with
hard.
it. Um, but it's the things that you need to do. If you're gonna push your body super hard, you need to fuel it correctly, and you need to understand what you're doing,
Yeah,
right? And you don't
yeah,
need to look like Chris Hemsworth, like to be
right,
healthy, right? It's and
right. Yeah.
I think everybody kind of struggles with that. One of your other, we kind of got into this, but you had another great post that was being unco. So I've got it written down here. That's why I'm looking
Yeah,
stupid.
you're good. Go for it.
Um,
Go for it.
being uncomfortable brings growth, and then in the body of that, it was talking about like, are you complaining a lot? Is your attitude shit? Are you being short with people? Like those are all
Hmm.
signs that you're not happy or you're not
Yeah.
like being grateful for what you like. There are a lot of things that tie into that. When I'm having a bad day, at least once a week, I sit down and really think about what I'm grateful for. And it's as simple as like everyone I love is not sick. And like,
Yeah.
we know
Sometimes you have to be like that. Yeah.
and it's humbling because you're like, okay,
Hmm.
you got to drive 3 hours a day to get to this job. You have a job, right? And it
You
pays
have a
pretty
job.
good.
You're getting paid. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
got a
it,
roof over your head. You've got clean running water.
yeah.
There's a lot of things to just really be thankful for, especially in America or Canada, first
Yeah.
world, I should say,
Yeah.
that those amenities that we get to be blessed with every day for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
But
you do kind of have to focus on that, but I really liked seeing that as like, you seem to do speak up about good things. And it's kind of rare because I mean, I've talked to people that have these like 20, 30, 40,000 follower accounts. And when they start getting into that, their following drops off. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, that's cool. So I only get
yeah,
to just do what you want.
yeah, it's kind of superficial in some areas, and you have to cater to people and things like that. And as content creators, we're doing it for the money. There's a big part of it that's for the money, and the opportunities and things like that. But then you got to like take a step back and be like, all right, so what do my followers want to see? But also, what did I need to see when I was
Yes.
younger?
Yeah.
Because I used to have like I used to like struggle with children. So I'll just use
Hmm.
that as an example. Like I just really didn't like kids. I'm like, I will never have kids when I'm older, blah, 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 blah. I hate children. And like that came from a very wounded area in my life.
Yeah.
And I came to this point where someone said to me, because I had to play with some kids. Like I was doing this like class and I was helping a teacher. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with these kids? I don't know how to connect with children. I don't like children.
Yeah.
um,
They're terrible. Yeah.
and they were like, be the person that you needed when you were that age.
Yes.
And when I tell you that that broke me, like I'll get emotional now. Like that broke me because the type of person that I needed then was just somebody who was just there and
Yeah.
listening and was I looked up to people my age, like I was like, you're cool. I want to be like you when I grow up. So to realize that they're looking at us, and all that. But yet I view that the same way with social media.
Yep.
Be the person that you needed when you were that age. And
Hmm.
so I bring these topics up, and so what if I lose followers? I don't really
Good.
care if I ever have a big following.
Same.
I think we were in a discussion group where we were talking about like ways to grow your platform, and I mentioned that I only post during certain time frames because my followers are the most active during that time. And someone gave me the advice. They're like, well, no, post other times because you want to gain followers, right? Like, and grow and things like that. And while there is a dynamic of that, that's fine. But I really am posting for my followers.
Yeah.
And if I gain people along the way, cool, great. But I am posting things I feel like the people that I'm getting to know in my DMs would need to hear. Like, because I needed to hear that. And these are things that I learned and really made huge impacts on me and how I grew up. And someone needs to hear it.
Um,
I'm not like this big smart person or anything like that. I just know things that have made my life that have been beneficial to my life, I should say.
totally.
What is?
I I've been talking about for a long time that I'm like actively avoiding growing a big following because everyone I talk
Yeah.
to, it's a fucking headache. And like
Yeah.
and the other part of it is like when you talk to some of these people that have like 100,000 followers, how could you possibly answer all your messages? And like how could
Can't.
you do that back and
My
forth? And
DMs
like
are a little full right now. And
I
then
bet.
I've only gotten 13. I only have 13,000 followers. So
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
impressive. Yeah.
it's grown a lot recently, but yeah, like my DM requests, there's like 20 messages in there that I haven't gotten to. Of course,
Jesus.
some of them are like, hey, move to Croatia. I would take care of you, baby. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever,
You're like, I'm doing
but
all right,
still,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Like I like America right now. So
Right.
anyways, but yeah, I want to be able to connect with people and I want to be able to give people a genuine experience because
Yeah.
I'm just a person.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
We did a giveaway for Corey. He invented this cool drywall tool. It's like a 3-in-1, like things that you don't use
Oh
every
yeah.
day. Um, and the other guy that did it with me, um, he was like, I'm gonna for my giveaway, they're gonna have to like and follow your page and like, and I was like, please don't do that. And
Right.
I was
It's
just
not the right
honest.
crowd.
It's not my people. It's not my people.
Exactly.
And he was telling me about how well it did analytically like 10,000 views and tons of likes and tons of comments. And I was really
Mhm.
proud for him. And on the other end of it, I was like, thank God he didn't message me in that
Right.
shit. I don't want that shit. And
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
just it brings in a tidal wave of people that aren't your people. So they don't respect your work. They don't respect everyone else in your community's work. Like it's I'm just not into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've also been very fortunate where I have brands that back me and want to do things with me. And I don't know how that happened, but it did. Um,
Right.
and like I'm like 1,500 followers or something. It's not,
Yeah.
but that's great because everybody that messages me, I'm almost right away messaging them back.
Right.
And like I do
Yeah.
go through all my comments because I've got the time to.
Exactly.
Some of these,
Yeah.
like if you've got something with like 400 comments on it and you're catching up to it, you're going to spend an hour doing that. It's
Dude,
crazy.
if I can say the one that, so I had a video go viral and it has 2.5 million views. And
Whoa.
there are 3,000 plus comments on there, and I've responded to almost every single one
Good for
because
you.
you know what? I was like, I got time. We drive 11 hours a day. I can respond to your rude comments all day long. So I just started having a little bit of fun. Now it's grown too, and I've kind of moved past it. But like
Yeah.
for the first 3 days, I responded to every single comment. I
Yeah.
was like, I got this. There were guys telling me to go back to the kitchen, go make me a sandwich. Where's
So
your man?
dumb.
Women breaking tools, and I'm like, that just tells me you've never touched a torque bit. But anyways, whatever,
Nah.
whatever. But yeah, and I was like, there was one guy that said, yeah, go, you need to go back to the kitchen and make me a sandwich. And so I just put a sandwich recipe in the comments back to him, since
That's
obviously he
amazing.
needed a little help in the
Yeah.
respect of the kitchen scene. And the amount of people I had responding, going like, that sounds like a really good sandwich. And I was like, yeah, because
I'm like, yeah.
I'm
I,
not one of those women that's like, I'm never in the kitchen because I'm a strong, like feminist woman. I don't care. I
yeah,
don't
it's
care. I got feminine duties I do, and I got masculine duties I do. I don't give a crap. Whatever. I'm secure in who I am.
yeah.
But yeah, it got hard after a while because it was like there's thousands of comments on here, and that's rough. Oh well.
I
Yeah,
really typically don't get any negative comments on my stuff. And I've been super lucky and I
you're
kind of
blessed.
I feel like it's also because I'm actively avoiding it. And so the
Yeah.
other day, Columbia's got a new pump out or a new tube out. It's just a new tool. They've made it in
Hmm.
carbon fiber, so it's super light. And we were just checking it to make sure that, it doesn't leak. Does it work? Does it, is it good?
Yeah.
So I posted about it and somebody had a comment of like, well, does it have an autofill and you're wasting your time? And I was like, okay. And I reach out to people that are being a dickhead and he wasn't. He was just like, yeah, like this is a thing that I've been thinking
Yeah.
about that would be cool if whatever. So it wasn't a shitty comment. I was just kind of seeing
It
it
just
like
came
that.
across
It's
rough.
right. And
Yeah.
my like spider sense kind of goes off where I'm like, mm-mm,
Hmm.
not on this one,
Hmm.
right? But even at
Yeah.
that, like sometimes if you didn't, if I hadn't taken that time across, like to investigate or whatever you want to say,
Hmm.
um, that's a thing that I wouldn't know about now. Like, and I mean,
Yeah.
if I had 1,000 comments on that, I just would have glazed right over it and been like, yeah, this
Right.
guy
No.
is a dickhead or,
Yeah.
or
And
whatever.
that's honestly super dope that you even reach out to people, because that's not necessarily something I do, because I don't really want to get in a pissing match with someone.
Yeah.
And men do the mansplaining thing. They always think they're right when a woman says, hey, I think what you said was like crap and I disagree with you. And they'll state that I can give them all the facts, but because I'm a woman, they're
Yeah.
not going to listen
It's so
to me.
stupid.
But that's something that, like, I feel like we could have a whole episode on how to handle rude
Hmm.
comments, because being humble, being kind, and trying to see things from someone else's point of view, all of those things first before you respond to the comment, is really important. I had a comment on my one that we've been talking about the 3.5 year transformation, and a lady commented and said, you don't seem to understand that there are lots of women out there that struggle with food addictions, and it shows, or whatever. And I was
Cool, cool,
I
bro.
had to, yeah, I had to take a step back, because that's literally like me saying, oh, my favorite color is green, and then someone commenting and being like, well, you must hate blue. And it's like, That has nothing to do. So I took a second. I was like, okay, she's obviously projecting an insecurity. Like that's
100%.
100% what's. So I was like, what do I need to say that's going to be kind and going to redirect her to, maybe some constructive criticism or something like that. And so I tried to be really kind. I was like, please don't project on my post. I'm not going to talk about topics that I don't know anything about, because everybody's journey in life is different. And I would hope that you or someone you know who's struggling with what you're talking about right now would openly talk about it,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to speak on it because I don't like, it's not something I struggle with. I would never want to speak on something I don't understand.
Right.
And you just have to come at it with some humbleness and go, do I need to be corrected here? And if you come to the point where you're like, no, I was in the right with this, then you just have to come at it with, some gentleness, some kindness. Some people I'm not very gentle with, because I'm just like,
I treat everyone accordingly.
The really, really sexist stuff, I'm like, no,
So
I'm
dumb.
not gonna. It's so dumb. It's
Why,
so dumb.
why would you even talk to someone that's being that stupid? Like, and I don't delete comments either. Like, if you want to be
Me
stupid on my
either. Yep.
page forever, you can. You're more than welcome to.
Go for it. Let my
Yeah.
followers come after you, because there are some people who will come after you because they think you're stupid. So
Yeah.
whatever. It'll be what it is.
On the back of all of my gear at the end of every episode, it says be humble, treat everyone the same, and do your fucking job. And that's
That's
on the
great.
back
Yeah,
of all of my gear. Because
that's awesome.
do those three things. Do those three things and tell me you're not living your dream. But because
I don't see anything wrong with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the pushback that I got from like family and friends where they're like, man, people aren't going to work with you when you got a shirt that says that. And I'm like, good. I don't want to work with people that don't understand what that shirt means. Like old women have stopped me and been like, I really like that.
I
And I'm
love that.
like,
That's great.
that's
You're like,
good.
you?
Yeah, because I don't want to, piss anybody off. But like I need those reminders. That shirt is not to be like, we're cool. It's like I need that constant reminder. And if you do those
Yeah.
things, you will be happy, or at least
Yeah.
better.
You'll be squared away. I mean, you know, we could get into the whole discussion about what even is happiness and all
Hmm.
of that stuff. What's joy, and but if you really are doing your best, and you're being humble, and you're being self-aware of your own issues, that's going to bring a lot greater quality of life. Even if we were to not say happiness, your quality of life is going to be better. So I mean, I think you're pretty squared away with that for sure.
On that last podcast that I did solo, I really kind of dove into that of like, I'm not looking for happiness anywhere, but I'm constantly surrounding myself with joy. And like happiness is a byproduct
That's
of being surrounded by things that bring you joy. And I'm
mm-hmm.
not looking for it. When you're looking to be happy, you're going to be happy for 10 seconds. And then you're unhappy with the next thing. Like it's just, it doesn't work
Happiness is
for
fickle,
me. Yeah. It's a
very fickle.
yeah, it's a feeling, right? It's like excitement. You can't be excited 24 hours a day. Your body doesn't work that way. The happiness is the
No,
same thing, at least for me. So you got to find things that you like, you know, take time to spend looking at beautiful stuff or whatever you need to
yeah,
do to get that joy. Joy is the big one. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, like, coming from, again, I'm not pushing my beliefs on other people or anything like that, but I really think when you get down to the nitty gritty of it and realize that you kind of have to figure out what is your ultimate mission in life, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Have a
if
plan.
you can always have, here's the thing, you can always have a plan, you can always plan out the next 2 to 5 years or whatever, but if you don't have like this all encompassing, like, what is my goal here in
Hmm.
life, like, there's always going to be something missing as you pursue things. So like when I sit back and I go, God has asked me to be, like, kind, considerate, to treat everybody with the same respect that I feel like I deserve, because we're all human. We're all created in that image, that type of thing. Again, I'm not pushing my beliefs, but like, I really strongly believe that that's what we're supposed to be to each other. Not be dog eat dog,
Hmm.
hating each other. Like, it's all about money. It's all about this. People matter,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. People matter. And I mean, that's what this podcast is about, bringing to light issues that happen with people. not
Yep.
just work. The work will fade in and fade out, and it's not going to be around all the time, but people will. You know, that's
Yep.
just where I come down to.
And I totally agree with that. And this podcast is not going to change by any means because I think people enjoy it, and it's kind of a dick around a lot of the time where we're just,
Absolutely.
shooting the shit. But
Yeah.
my favorite parts of the podcast is when it gets into by accident real issues, and people openly
Yeah.
talk about it. That long form conversation you can't beat when you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about issues or things that bother you, or whatever, because if someone's like, well, you seem really bothered about that, and you're like, yeah, but I got over it. That's a typical conversation, as opposed to like, how did you get over it, and like, what
Yeah.
were
No
the
one's learning.
struggles? Yeah.
Yeah, that's learning and growing and hearing other people's point of views. Man, that is something that I love about trucking, because there are people who will never leave their hometown
Mm-hmm.
ever. They will never, their entire lives, they will spend in that hometown. And like, again, it's fine and all, but like, if I could give one piece of advice, go out and see the world. And even
Yeah.
if it's just the US, there is so many cultural differences throughout the United States. Like, I'm saying for me, you could say it for people in Canada too. Like, go out and
Totally.
see Canada, go out and see these different places and stuff. Because when I tell you that there are major cultural differences,
Oh
majorly
yeah.
different ideas about doing different things in the United States alone, I'm not joking, dude. There are just so many different avenues of thought out there. And when I get in discussions with people at truck stops or gas stations or grocery stores. Gosh, I was in a Trader Joe's the other day
Okay.
because we
Yeah.
dropped off some bricks and things like that to this job site, and there was a Trader Joe's right next by, and we're like, let's go get some groceries because we need to restock our fridge. And I was talking with the cashier gentleman, and it just came up. He was like, he realized that I was talking as if I didn't know where I was at and things. He's like, well, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Indiana. And we were in Colorado. And he's like, oh, well, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, work. We were dropping off. And he's like, what do you mean? So I said, that's our truck out there. And he's like, you just you just drive around. Where are you going after this? I'm like, oh, Nebraska. like
Yeah.
so to be able to have conversations and to hear, his surprise or questions that he asked about our lifestyle, that's what it's all about. Hearing
It's
other
cool.
people. That's how you learn.
Well, and it's like, the floor is lava or whatever with some of these people too, where it's like, I'm never leaving my
Yeah.
hometown because it's scary or whatever. But there's a
Yeah.
big world out there. And like doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable is really good for you. And you don't have to continue to do those things.
Yes,
You have a
sir.
choice, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I took from Rogan that like really made a big difference. And I think I was doing it prior to it, but he kind of put the word of like just doing difficult tasks, like doing things that are shitty just to do them. That like when I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And you do like really like fucking cold showers. Why? Why am I doing that? But it's like
Why
because
am
I
I doing
said
that?
I'm gonna like I have
Yeah.
the discipline to do it. And like if you create your own suck, everything else sucks a little bit less, I guess.
That's a very militaristic way to think, but like
Kind of
I don't
is.
disagree with it.
It kind of
That's kind
is.
of what they do to you in the military. They're like, you know what we're going to put you through isn't going to be compared to war. So, buckle up. But yeah, I think, I mean, we were talking about that post just a little bit, like making yourself uncomfortable. It shows who you are.
Hmm.
I'm sure you've heard the example of like if you have a cup with coffee in it and you bump someone and it spills coffee out, like that's right, that's what's in there. And when people bump into you or hard things happen or you do hard things, what you really are inside is going to spill out. And if
Hmm.
you realize what you are inside is not something you want to be, like you have the opportunity to go, all right, I need to trade this vodka off for actual water.
Yeah.
Like it, you get bumped and you change. And that's what my post was about the other day. Is just like, I'm uncomfortable. I am absolutely soaked because it is pouring rain and I'm trying to
Hmm.
secure vehicles in the rain. I'm miserable. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm hungry, I haven't eaten yet. Like I'm done with this. This sucks. And but am I treating my husband rude? Am I being short and mean to him? Am I treating the people that we were picking up the load from? Am I treating them, the right way because I'm uncomfortable? And it just is very eye-opening. Anytime you make yourself uncomfortable, you get to see who you really are as a person. And sometimes I'm a complainer. Sometimes I like to complain about things. And when I realize that about myself, and I go, man, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, no,
But
thank
I
you.
find that I do that when I'm uncomfortable. So when I realize that, have the self-awareness, you move past it and go, all right, let's change some of this behavior for sure.
Yeah, what's really bothering me and like how do I fix it? And then just fix it, or
Yeah.
don't, but don't complain
Or
about it.
don't.
Yeah,
Yes. Don't come here complaining when you're not going to put the effort into changing it.
totally.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's wild. And I mean, also, if you're going to be one of these people that really helps and like tries to help, you also need to understand the people that are never going to take the advice and never going to help, and stop wasting that time on those people and use it constructively to somebody that needs it. And that was my hardest thing. Once I kind of got my shit together, as much as it is, I mean, um, I was like, I need to be helpful to other people. And I wasted a lot of time in my like early 30s, late 20s doing that kind of stuff. And like you're checking in with people that aren't doing what they said they're going to do, but you still need to put the effort in. Like, I'm going to help. Sometimes you
But
can,
I think that's a learning curve. Like I think learning how to spot the people who are willing to change is actually a learning curve. Because
yep,
I've experienced a very similar thing, and I'm still experiencing it because I'm pretty young. I'm 25, so like
I didn't want to ask.
no, you're good.
But
I
yeah,
don't have a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
I'm 25 and I just recently turned 25. And gosh, the morning after I woke up, my neck hurt. And I was like, this is stupid. Okay. They really mean it that once you hit 25, it starts going downhill.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I've noticed that. And I'm still really, really learning that of how to spot the people who are worth, I don't want to say worth putting the effort into, but
Hmm.
even the Bible says to not throw your pearls before swine. And all it means is quit investing when you realize there's no reception
That's
of
right.
that quality. And that's all it means. And it's just, I'm still learning that. I haven't figured that out. I still like to assume the best in people. I'm very optimistic. I have a tendency to see the good in people and think that
Hmm.
they'll change. And unfortunately, that's not always true. And I've had some pretty difficult friendships and realize how long I wasted my efforts in situations. And
Yeah.
it's a learning curve. You have to learn how to spot those people. And I'm sure you have a little bit more experience with that than I do. And hopefully over time I'll gain that experience.
I'm just so much older than you.
So much older,
Yeah. So I mean, it is. I listened to an excellent speech on return on investment, and it had nothing to
Okay.
do with money, and it had nothing to do with benefiting from things. But when I see somebody that's like hurting and like shit is just not working out for them, and you give them some really solid advice, and they follow it, and then they start flourishing, man, there are very few feelings that feel better than that, because you didn't get anything out of it. What you got out of it was seeing someone else do better, and
Yeah,
like
that's
realize
such a
that
good feeling.
they're capable of it. Yeah. It
Yeah,
is a great feeling. I mean, it does a lot of good for a person like me, where it's just like because it's not like I don't wake up negative and I don't like feel all of those feelings. You just have to have them under control. And you're like, man, if you could just get a whiff of that, you wouldn't do any of this shit anymore. And a lot of people,
yeah.
it's a real thing for a lot of people.
I've yeah, I've seen that firsthand. I mean, I would even say one of these days we'll get my husband on here too, but he's experienced that, where he's just been very negative. And then I was like, if you could just see, you
Hmm.
know, what life could be like if you would just give XYZ a chance. We've been together, I think 7 years, 7 or 8 years now, but then we've only been married for 5. So they're just, growing. You grow together and you
Hmm.
see the other person for who they are. And that's been a very present reality of like, if you could just see the benefits, if you could just imagine yourself later on in life, if you will do XYZ, your quality of life is going to be better. And you hope that for people. You hope that they'll see that.
I always wished that you could give someone a pill that would show them what 6 months of dedication would do
Yes.
in any
That,
aspect, right? Like if you could
I want
just
that
get
for
a
me.
me too. Oh, and that's where it came
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. I want that.
Yeah, because you have terrible discipline and terrible confidence and a terrible like perspective of yourself. If you could like take a pill that would show you what 6 months in the gym would do, or like 6 months of being kind, or like
Yeah.
6 months of winning because you put
Give
the
it
effort
time.
in. But people don't see that. The first sign of adversity or pushback, and they're like, I can't do it. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
totally can though. I know you
Totally.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right on the money with that. There are a lot of people who anything uncomfortable is just not it.
Hmm.
And yeah, my husband had a coworker who would just complain a lot,
Hmm.
would ask us for advice. He would come to us often about, you know, both me and my husband would be like, you guys just seem like your life is like together, which it's not, but you seem happy. What are you doing? What's different? And I'm like, well, for one, God, like that's going to be a big one for me. But okay, let's take a step back if you're not religious and things like that. And okay, what is your life like on XYZ fronts? What are you doing for fitness? What are you doing for that? He
Hmm.
would go out and party and he's like one of these like romantical guys that wants to meet this really cool girl. And he would go to bars and try to pick chicks up in a bar. And I told him one time, I was like, listen, you want to meet someone who's going to be your wife one day, right? And you want a really down to earth girl. And he's like, yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you think your future wife is doing right now? And
Yeah.
he's
Is
like,
she
what do you mean?
drinking in a bar on a Thursday?
He's at a bar. Yeah. Or is she reading a book at a coffee shop by herself?
Hmm.
You might want to look for her in different places. And so, but he never listened. Not, and eventually that relationship had to get cut off because he was doing things that were putting uh, children at risk. And
Jesus.
I was like, that's not, I had to call, you know, the D, what is it? The D Department of Child
Yeah.
Resources or whatever.
Yeah. Child
Anyways, I had to
services up
call that
here.
child
Yeah.
services. Yeah, I had to call that on a girl he was dating that her kid was just in a really bad situation and he wasn't saying anything about it. And I was like, this is it for me.
Hmm.
I can't be friends with somebody like that. And
Yeah.
my husband was the same way. He's like, I'm out. This is not acceptable behavior. So
Yeah. And I
yeah,
mean,
learning the people who will listen. You know.
yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit wild, and especially when it comes to stuff like that. It's like, I'm going to do you this last favor, and it's this
Mm-hmm.
one's going to hurt, but hopefully you learn from it. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do that. I mean, I always tell people the same kind of thing as what you said. Like you're looking for this partner that you're looking for. What is she or what is he like in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And then where is that
Mm-hmm.
person and how would you meet them?
Mm-hmm.
And then go do that. But on the
Yeah.
same hand, don't go around bothering women. Are you are
Yeah.
are are you the man that she's looking for? Or are you this
Right.
fucking work in progress disaster that's looking
Yeah.
for something already? Like if you don't have your shit together, leave women alone. Go get your
Yeah.
shit together because
On
you can
behalf of all women,
literally,
please do that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because it's
It's it.
crazy. Like, are you a good partner? No, you don't have your own shit
Yeah.
together, and you're going to bring
Why?
somebody
Why
else into that.
expect? Yeah. Why expect a high quality, driven, all these different attributes partner when you yourself don't reflect those qualities?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't be good to yourself, how are you
Yeah.
going to be good to somebody else? Or are you just going to be this
Exactly.
fucking
Don't
anchor
get in a
that's
relationship if you don't love yourself, or at
yeah,
least like have some kindness for yourself because you will hurt that person. I
yeah,
I say that with a fact. Yeah,
I
it just
mean,
will.
yeah, and some people that aren't happy, typically they go, okay, but then this thing is going to change everything magically
Mm,
overnight. So I'll go just find that
right.
thing. If I just had the right woman, I would have,
Yeah,
better this, better that, whatever. But it's like, but nothing would change.
it's your
Nothing
heart, bud.
magically changes. Yeah.
Mhm. It's it's the cup thing. If you get
Yes.
bumped by adversity, what are you spilling out?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
and if it's
it's,
toxic garbage, then you should probably work on that.
you should probably work
Mhm.
on that. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we'll all be a work in progress. Nobody's going to be
Mhm.
perfect or anything like that. But it's the commitment to growth. If you're
Hmm.
committed to grow, that's already the biggest green flag that someone can have. I think and I believe.
I've met some disasters that have big goals. And it's like, you look like shit. And they're like, I know, but I'm so close to the next milestone. And you're like,
Woo.
all right. Like, but you're gonna start showering again, right? Like when you hit the milestone.
Yeah.
Like and that, that's fine too. But it's
Yeah.
like because in my opinion, when you are running towards a goal, you neglect things because it's just like I'm
Mm-hmm.
so razor focused on this. That's not unhealthy, as long
Mm-hmm.
as you have your beginning date and your end date, and then you're going to reflect on all of that, get back to who you are, and do it again. You
Yeah.
can't lose yourself on stuff. But I mean, if things are slipping up, but because you're achieving your goals, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's why I asked you when, because I see your stuff online. I'm like, dude, this guy's got it down with his work. And that's why I wanted to know more about like how do you balance that self-care
mhm.
and take care of your kids and stuff. And that like it's all about figuring out that balance. And I just find it fascinating to learn how other people deal with stress. How do other people deal with that stuff?
I've been super fortunate with my son is about as busy as I am. He's got a whole bunch of hobbies. He's like scholastically really into it. He's got big goals.
Can I ask how old he is?
14 in May,
Okay.
so he's 13
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like he's going to Italy to live next semester. Because,
Yes.
well, but it's because he wants to be an astrophysicist. So when
Right.
there's only so many spots at the top, and
Yeah.
and they start going, okay, what was your high school like? Okay, what about before that? Okay, and then what about before that? And like he's 13 and he's got a second language and knows all this stuff that
Wow. That's
it.
awesome.
But if you didn't do that, you might not in 10 years it might affect you. And like he understands that. His mother is brilliant, scholastically too. She's a mineral engineer. She wanted to be an astronaut, and then she got just about
That's
there
so cool.
and then realized that the space program was dying off, so she was going to do all this work for nothing. um but
That's hard.
those types of things that you really got to get into them early. We do every other weekend with him now, and it is just his chill time, because we were doing like dinners and we were doing FaceTimes, and it just started interrupting all the shit that he needs to be doing. And I told
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
buddy, you ever need anything or want more time or whatever you need, just let me know. But I also can't be the thing that's holding you back and like adding to your
Heck yeah.
stress.
Heck
Um,
yeah. That's so awesome as a parent to recognize that because I think I can't speak because I'm not a parent, but like
mhm.
I've heard things from my parents, and all you want is time with your kid, and
Yes.
but you understand they have a life and they're going to go out there and do great things if you just let them.
Yeah, I was super beat up when we had the discussion of I'm just not going to be here for a few months, like 6 months, pretty much. He's going to be gone. And it's like,
Yeah,
man, as a
that's
parent, I,
hard.
I don't want that. But as his
Yeah,
parent, you do, because it's like you see the good in it, and you can't let them know that it's going to hurt because maybe it'll change his
it'll change
perspective.
their. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
It'll affect. I used to be a lot like that. I come from I have two brothers and a sister, and I was like the middle child. So I was very much a people pleaser, and I kind of just
Same.
wanted would do whatever needed to be done to make people around me happy and stuff. Um, and when I started dating my husband, he really started to help. I wouldn't say that he helped me find my voice, but he would point out situations where he saw me sacrificing what I wanted to
Hmm.
do for other people. And so it allowed me to kind of just realize what I really wanted and to just kind of put my foot down on things and to start being more of myself. And I heard from people, you're not acting like yourself anymore. And
Hmm.
that was hard to hear. And it's like, it's because I'm trying to be me for once.
Yeah.
And so, like, as a young adult who's only been out of the house, really only a few years, I love hearing that despite how uncomfortable it is for you,
Hmm.
you're still like, go out there, kid, get it. Like, that's awesome. And I love hearing that. That's a lot of parents should hear that because it's scary, but
It is, and it sucks. And like you can't, you're never going to be a perfect parent, and like things are going to hurt you
mm-hmm.
anyways. Like you could have the best relationship ever, but your kid's gonna move out at some point.
Yeah.
They're gonna make their own family and not have as much time for you. Like I make it, I don't know, I try my best to see my parents at least once a week. If not, it's every other week kind of thing. But I went through, things got super busy maybe a month ago, a couple of months, whatever it was. It was recent. And
Yeah.
they came for a visit, and my dad was sick the one time, and then he was golfing the one time. And like out of, nobody thought about it. I gave him a big hug the last time I saw him, and I was like, I feel like it's been like 2 months.
Hmm.
And it had been, right? And it's just like poof, that happened. Um,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
just I
very familiar.
life just, yeah, right, especially trucking because you're probably gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Months at a time. And it's hard because when I'm really focused,
Yes.
I have a tendency to not think about other people because I
Hmm.
get very,
Yeah, focused.
blinders on. And I will realize that I haven't talked to my parents in a couple of weeks.
Hmm.
And I realize, I feel guilty for that because I love my family. And I'm trying to do better about setting up goals for myself of like, oh, call them once a week. Just
Hmm.
tell them where you're at, what you're
Check
doing,
in.
what kind of loads are you hauling. Because the longest time period that we've been out on the road before has been 3 months. I mean,
Whoa.
yeah, out on the road, not home. Missed holidays, birthdays, everything.
Hmm.
And, it's not ideal, but there's many reasons for why that stuff happens. And it's the lifestyle that we chose. And it's like that sometimes. But we live in a day of technology, so I really have no excuse to not FaceTime and
Yeah.
call and text and things. And that's actually a really big reason why I even started this platform, was so that my friends and family could see what I'm doing without having to update all of them. And that's a big reason why this started. I mean, that's before me saying, oh, I want to be a content creator. I was like, no, I just need to keep everybody updated. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's,
It's always
yeah, you
super
got to take
weird
time.
when I go back to the old friend group where they're like, "Hey, what have you been up to?" And I'm like, "Man, we don't have fucking time to go through what I've been up to for the
Yeah.
last 6 months
You're
because
like, do
we
you mean
don't."
lately or? Yeah,
Well, yeah, like the
yeah,
the huge differences in all kinds of stuff
yeah,
and traveling and like different sponsorships and like opportunities and different goals, like how things have evolved. And it's like, and I don't like talking. It feels like now, sorry, I love talking, but I mean,
yes,
I don't, it's like you're taking over, right? Like if we
yeah,
wanted to talk about what I'm doing all the time, it would be the rest of this evening.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I'm always like, if you care, follow along. You're more than welcome to.
yeah,
But it's like I really
yeah.
don't want
I've
to
found
talk
that
about
too.
me. I want to catch up with my
Yeah,
friends. Yeah.
yes, that's something for me. Is like when I go home, I don't really want to talk about work because I've been living it. Like I live in the vehicle. This is better than a cubicle, believe me, but
For
like it's the
sure.
size of one. Okay.
Hey, oh
And
yeah.
and I live my work. I live my job day in, day out for weeks and months at a time. When I go home, I just want to see my friends. I want to
Hmm.
go out to eat. I want to ask them how their lives are. And I don't really want to talk about me too much. I'll share some funny situations that
Totally.
happened, or just kind of just talk about things and how we're doing. But like, I don't want to talk too much about it. So I understand where you're at with that. I totally get that.
And I mean, with some of my friends, like there is no way to really keep up with them. They're not doing that kind of stuff. So it's like you can't even really guess what
Yeah,
they've been up to. So let's not talk about
because
me.
it's the
Let's talk about
same.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always hard too when I talk with, you know, we went through changing our friend group, and
Hmm.
like you do that throughout life because like there's one thing about us is we travel a lot and we have no kids.
Right.
So we're married, we're not single people, so like, but we don't have children. So our friend group is like, it's a difficult group to find because there's almost people who don't want to be your friend
Yeah.
because you're either married or you don't have children, so they feel like they can't relate to you. And there are some people who are just doing the same thing day in and day out, and it was hard for us to stay friends with some of those people because
Yeah.
it's like how's the weather, and we have very fast paced lives, and There's no hate, man. I have so much love for everybody. Everybody needs to eat. Even the people that I had falling us out with, like, I hope they're doing great in life. I really do. But I, when I go home and we're home for like 3 or 4 days, there are a select few people that we will see while we're home
Totally.
because I want to see them and I want to see how their lives are doing. And it's not that I don't care about other people, but there's very select people that I want to spend my time with because I don't want to say it's valuable because that sounds very arrogant, but it's limited.
It's super
It's
limited.
limited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That kind of stuff's crazy. You said something about like when you two were trying to figure each other out with your husband and how he like
Mm-hmm.
would catch on to certain things of like, you know, I noticed that when you do this, maybe you're not super happy afterwards, like pleasing people
Mm-hmm.
or doing whatever. That makes a good partner because that's not somebody telling you what you're doing. That's
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying, I think I noticed something. And
Yeah.
I think we should talk about it because, how are you feeling about it? And it's just you guys have such a healthy relationship. And it's like,
Boy.
don't
Yeah.
do that because I know, I love you and you feel like shit after you do this. So maybe don't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
it's just sometimes you need that, whether it be a friend or a spouse or whatever, where they're not,
Yes.
I'm not telling
Everyone
you
needs
what to
that.
do, but I'm noticing some
Yeah.
shit. Do you notice
Well,
it too?
externally, to have someone point something out to you that you just didn't notice from a third
Hmm.
person point of view, like, that's so helpful. Everybody needs that. Truly, everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And I, Instagram is a highlight reel of all the good things, right? So I never want to paint it like my husband and I have not had our struggles
Oh,
and things like that. Man, we've had some really rough stuff, and it's just it be like that. But you decide, is this the person that I want to spend my life with? And then you make it work, and you make it work with the highest quality of life that you can. And
right.
I would not have a high quality amount of life if we just didn't communicate about things or didn't discuss things that we felt like were problems, or point things out that were like, hey, you're kind of doing this and I don't know if that behavior is the healthiest for you or
Hmm.
whatever. I expect that from him for me, and he expects that from me to him. I mean, that's you're right, it is healthy, but it's not perfection. I want to say that because I
No.
never want people to think we're perfect, because that's a scary road to be in. Like, no, 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 don't get it wrong. But like, yeah, it's nice to have somebody who cares.
I have a lot of those conversations too, where it's like, man, everything must just be so easy because it looks so easy. And you're like, it's a fucking nightmare. It's not
It's
easy.
not.
This is terrible. And I do say that on my stories every once in a while of like, I don't wish this on anyone because
Mm,
it's not glamorous. It's a lot of work
no.
and a lot of it doesn't pay off and like and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be living that good life
Mm-hmm.
inside if I wasn't doing those things. And you just have to know the animal that you are and kind of facilitate that the best you can. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
People don't
because
always
nobody's
see the blood.
perfect. What
Yes.
what's the,
Sorry.
what was that?
I was going to say, people don't always see the blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes. I try to
Yes.
be open with people about this stuff, but we get those comments that are like, well, must be nice. And nothing gets me heated more than must be nice,
Yeah.
because you have not seen just, you have not seen the tears. You have not
Hmm.
seen the moments where I screenshotted it. Okay. I'll have to look for it, but I remember the day that our bank account had $5.71 in it.
Yep. Must be
Nothing
nice.
nice about must be nice. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's not. But we've been blessed. We've
Yeah.
been blessed with the hard work we put in. And frankly, shout out to my family and his family for backing us up when we didn't have enough money to keep things going.
Hmm.
Man, we wouldn't be here without family. We wouldn't, because we had things happen that were abnormal for our situation, and it would have put us in the hole. But they
Yeah.
were there to go, no, we think you'll, if you just have this little boost,
Mm.
we think you'll make it. And God, I hope I can repay every cent of that back and then some to them, because that's believing in us is just, yeah,
I I
that does a
was
lot for the soul.
I was super fortunate with my parents on the same hand. The first year, maybe the first 2 years in business, my dad kept going, "Hey man, if you think maybe investing a little bit would help, you can always pay me back." And I was like, "Nope, this is me. This is all me. This is what I want to do." And then when I started making big goals, it's like, sometimes you are going to drive yourself into the planet trying to do something and you're going to run out.
Yeah,
And it's never like a, "Oh, here he is again," or whatever. It's like, I'm so proud of you. I want you to know that. And
yeah,
everybody needs help sometimes. And when you're going for it, it's so easy to, maybe you're not making as much money as you should be, but you're putting the steps in place that are going to help that later.
yeah.
And then, like you said, you pay it back when everything's good. It is
That's
what it is. And if
one can
that's,
hope.
well, yeah, and I mean,
One can
again,
hope.
you
No, no,
hope.
but like I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I just,
I
yeah.
feel
If I,
bad.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no,
Cut
no.
out.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just, if I could be, because my dad is someone that I look up to so much. He has his own business. He is just the epitome of a hard worker.
Hmm.
And uh, man, growing up, I was like, I want to be like my dad. I always wanted to be like my dad because he's just the coolest guy.
Hmm.
And um, we did this load that we took something from Colorado Springs to my like where we live now for some friends, and my dad helped us offload because it was vehicles and there was an issue with like the height and all that stuff. Anyways, um, so we're finishing up unloading. He just was there to help open up the dock for us, and so we're doing all the stuff. I'm putting straps away, I'm getting everything squared away and stuff. And later that day, my dad kind of pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, I saw you working out there, and I don't get to see you doing your job,
Hmm.
but I just want you to know that like you're really working hard, and I'm really glad to see you doing that." And which is the equivalent of him saying, "I'm proud of you." And so for
Yes.
me, like that was just like that's all I want is to be able to for my dad and my mom, but like for different reasons. But my dad just be like, "I'm proud of you for being able to keep a company afloat and work hard like him."
Yeah.
So he's got big shoes to fill, man. He's such
Yeah.
a cool guy.
Typically when my dad and I get into those conversations, when I go visit, I'll spend the night some nights and like we'll just drink
Mm-hmm.
Manhattans until 3 in the morning. And like, but those
Heck yeah,
conversations that you get into where it's just like, man, I feel like I'm drowning and I'm just failing all the time. And he's like, I don't think you see what you're doing. and
yeah,
then and then like to have somebody reiterate what you're doing and how ridiculous that is to take on, and you're surviving, and you're making big moves. People are afraid to do that, and those moments of like failure, it's not failure, you're trying to like super succeed and you're doing
yeah,
it, but like every once in a while you're going to fall on your face, and it's those little
yeah.
comments of like, "I'm proud of you," they go a long way.
Yeah. My dad is not a man of many words. So for
Yeah.
him to say something like that was the equivalent of this big speech of like, "I
Hmm.
love you, you're doing great, I'm proud of you." So like I try to hear those words in between. And I appreciate that about him. He's a quiet kind of guy, but it's nice to hear from him, when he's like, "Hey, you're working hard. I'm proud of you for that." Like, oh, yes. Yeah,
So we're getting
yeah.
awful close to 3 hours.
Wow.
That happened
Really?
pretty. That happened pretty quick.
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed talking to you.
Totally.
You are easy to talk to. I appreciate that. I get nervous when I'm talking to people I've never really met, and I'm like, is this going to be awkward or? So you're a great host.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
When you were like, "There's a bunch of people that want me to come on their podcast and I don't know," I'm like, "This is a great one to be your first," because it's like it's
Yeah,
it's
this is so
not
true.
scary. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah,
if it was an interview, it would have been different. And some podcasts are an interview, and it's like,
yeah,
you just got to get comfortable. Dip your foot in before you dive in. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think I have an interview actually on Tuesday with a company who reached out to me to connect. So
those are
be
cool.
thinking about me on Tuesday because
I
I'm
will.
I'm nervous about that one because that one's an interview. So,
I will
woo,
wish you luck.
yes, yeah.
Where does everybody find you? What platforms are you on? What are you doing?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, and I just opened up a Facebook page. Um, and that's very new. I had to have that just for company's sake and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, and separate it from my personal. But all of the platforms, it's Highway Hopper.
Mm-hmm.
So at highway.hopper, you can find me on all of those. The YouTube channel is more me and my husband. We're trying to make that more about us.
I
And
like
there's
that.
not much content on there, but we really do want to get some longer format stuff at answering questions, because we get a lot of questions about how to get into trucking, what's it like, what are the different types of truck, all those questions. And I love answering those, but the 90 seconds that Instagram gives you is not enough.
It's
So
impossible. Yeah.
this year, the intent is to really expand into the YouTube platform and talk a lot more on that. So,
And I
yeah.
mean, just collect the questions and then even like once a
Yes.
week or once a month, do a 3 hour and or
That's a
like
good
an
idea.
hour or three times a month. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And just sit down and do, for sure, because you
Yeah.
would blast. Well, we just did, but I mean, you would
Yeah.
blast through that time pretty quick. And when you're being open and honest, it's long form conversation. It's the next thing for sure.
Well, there's, yeah, a lot that we've been able to talk about here and dive into. And I appreciate you being open to just talking about stuff that you're right. It's not normal to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about. And
100%.
especially having a man and a woman talk and be like,
Hmm.
hey, this is my struggles and this is your struggles. And how can we help, not be a problem and a hindrance to each other? I love that, because we're all out here, let's try to work as a team and not hate each other.
Yeah. Well, in like a topic of like size, I'm enormous and you were very tiny at one point. And where the
Yeah.
hell would that ever come up in conversation? Like you would
Right.
almost avoid that conversation because it's like
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
going to be weird or whatever.
This is going to be weird.
Um,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
All
well
right.
that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. And then yeah, it sounds like we'll book you and the hubby and we'll do another
For
one
sure.
whenever you want.
Yeah. Let's do it. That's awesome.
I mean,
I'm sure there's a lot of topics that we could touch on.
oh,
You know,
totally.
that's
Yeah, after you do your first question and answer, come on. We'll talk about it. We'll promote it to
all right.
nobody that listens to this.
Nobody that listens. Yep. I mean, I am going to promote this on my page, so we'll
Totally.
see, how that goes. But if people listen to the podcast and they're like, "Hey, I do like this guy stuff," I won't. Like you said, I won't push a bunch of followers and be like, "You got to go follow this guy." But
Yeah.
it's a great platform. Thank you for having me on, and
Yeah,
I'm excited for the future for sure.
for sure. Okay, everybody, be humble, treat everyone the same, and do your fucking job.